Chapter 315. Then she stopped talking. It was not that she had nothing to say, but Chen Guang gradually became sleepy after taking the drug, so he didn't have any energy to speak. Wu Tong couldn't bear to disturb his rest, so she kept her words to herself. She tightened her grip on his palm. His palm was really warm. In fact, Chen Guang was seriously injured. Being shot in the shoulder was no joke. If it was an ordinary person, he would have screamed and died in pain. Thanks to those days in the sea of moment where he lost his arms and legs, Chen Guang's nerves were much stronger than those of ordinary people. When he was almost lying down, Chen Guang asked Wu Tong to help him call Sun Xiaoxuan. He said that after he left, he met a friend he met when he was racing in Xiangjiang, so he took him out for a drink and wouldn't come back tonight. Although this kind of lie was not credible, Chen Guang sounded energetic, so Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei, and others couldn't do anything to him. During the treatment, Chen Guang pretended to be like Guangdong and didn't need anesthesia. But the hospital decisively gave him 2 injections of strong analgesics on both sides of his shoulders, so he fell asleep completely. But before he fell asleep, he stared into Wu Tong's eyes, no matter what. Absolutely. Don't let go of my hand. Don't let go even if the sky falls. Remember this well. Damn it, I told you 10,000 times not to use analgesics, but you lied to me that it was just antibiotics. What a fraud. The punishment world had not ended yet, and he might have to wait until 12 o'clock. If she let go and he failed, it would be a big problem. Wu Tong saw his red eyes and looked like he was going to eat someone, so she quickly comforted him. No, no. Absolutely not. You can rest assured and sleep. Swear. Otherwise, I won't sleep even if there are needles on my eyelids. I swear, I swear. Absolutely not. The next second, Chen Guang fell asleep. The anesthesia was really unreasonable. Wu Tong looked at him in a daze. Unconsciously, her eyes and face turned red. Wu Tong refused to participate in the meeting. As the leader of the system and Wu Tong's father, although he was worried, he still let it go. No matter whether others believed it or not, no matter what others thought, as Chen Guang said, as long as he insisted, Wu Tong would be a great hero. If it were any other police officer, such a big mistake would basically announce the end of their political career. However, Wu Tong had always been different from others. As long as Wu Shan was willing, he could turn black into white in Sichuan province. What's more, the final result was that all 7 bandits had died in the sewer of the No. 3 steel works, while the other group of bandits had escaped unscathed. Comparing the two, it was clear who was superior. In this peaceful era, Wu Tong's contribution today could be considered as the first time Granny Lu entered the Grand View Garden. In the Wujing City Bureau's conference room, Wu Shan slammed the table. Then, regarding Comrade Wu Tong's commendation, it's decided for the time being. At the same time, considering that the other group of robbers is currently on the run, we should focus on dealing with them. For the time being, we won't hold any commendation ceremony. These internationally notorious terrorists must be wiped out with all their might. Xiao Shui, the military sent you here to cooperate with us, so I feel at ease. Please be sure to give the terrorists a fatal blow and show the elegance of the Chinese soldiers. Don't let any of them escape. The young soldier called Xiao Shui grinned. Director Wu, don't worry. No matter how many of them come, they will all die. After saying that, the young soldier straightened his military cap, got up, and quickly walked outside. In a few steps, he had disappeared without a trace. The other participants also gradually left, but Wu Shan wasn't in a hurry to leave. Someone next to him pulled him and said, Shui Lin has become more and more heroic in the past 2 years. He's quite like his father. Wu Shan smiled. It's just that he didn't think of a good name. A man with a woman's name is almost called an executioner in the international community, but he's still a white-faced young man. Hey, old Wu, you don't understand. They aren't ordinary soldiers. What they want is this kind of deceptive appearance. If they pretend to be a white-collar worker, who can defend against them? That's true. Wu Shan nodded. On the other side, Bureau Chief Ding of Wenxing Branch grinned and rushed forward excitedly. Shui Lin is powerful, but like father, like daughter. Comrade Wu Tong has always dared to fight. This time, I didn't expect that she would deliberately pretend to be weak and go deep into the tiger's den. She could actually catch all 7 bandits in one fell swoop by herself. Wu Shan paused, and his expression stiffened. He looked at Bureau Chief Ding for a long time, and after a long while, he finally said, I got someone to check the car in your branch. Didn't you check it? Bureau Chief Ding looked confused. He really didn't have time to check the broken car. What's wrong? Another city bureau leader couldn't stand it anymore and came up to Bureau Chief Ding. Didn't your branch allocate funds to buy a new car last year? When Wu Tong drove your car in, the brakes completely fell off, and the steering wheel fell on the seat. What's the meaning of this? How do you think Wu Tong drove in? Huh? Bureau Chief Ding was dumbfounded. After the meeting, Wu Shan came to the hospital again. He wanted to ask Wu Tong to go out and explain some things, but Wu Tong refused to get up from the ward. She explained to Wu Shan that she was injured and couldn't get up. She didn't care about the credit and just wanted to lie here as an injured person. Of course, Wu Shan didn't believe her. Of course, he didn't feel good about it either. He pulled a chair over and sat beside her. He grabbed Wu Tong's other hand and held it in for a long time. Wu Tong, I'm sorry. Wu Tong didn't understand why he would suddenly say sorry to her, and she pulled her hand back. Why are you saying sorry for nothing? It's nothing. I suddenly thought of something in the past. Wu Shan was silent. There's a bomb in the helicopter, right? Wu Tong suddenly asked. Wu Shan was stunned, and he nodded with a bitter smile. Yes. From a police officer's perspective, I completely understand you, and I agree with your decision. If I had a bomb in my arms, I would also be willing to die with them, Wu Tong said. Wu Shan's heart relaxed a little. From a daughter's perspective, I don't really understand, but I understand. Wu Shan's heart relaxed again. But, don't say it anymore. Don't say it anymore. I'm sorry, I really don't have a choice. Wu Shan suddenly covered his face and choked with sobs. He knew what Wu Tong wanted to say. Thankfully, Wu Tong and Chen Guang were also in the intensive care ward, and there weren't any other patients. At this moment, the doctors and nurses weren't around. If others saw Chief Wu crying while holding onto his blanket, who knows if they would be frightened to death. After a long time, Wu Shan and Wu Tong finally calmed down. Wu Tong sighed. Dad, I'm not a young child anymore. There are some things that I might never be able to overcome emotionally, but now that I've become such a person, I understand rationally. It's good that you understand. I also understand that the helicopter came so fast because someone didn't want you to arrive in time, right? This. Oh right, what's going on? I know you. I've checked the wounds on those 7 people. It's not your doing. Don't lie to me. Wu Tong thought for a while and looked outside the door to make sure there were no eavesdroppers. It was Chen Guang who saved me, and he killed them. Chapter 316. How is that possible? I've investigated him. He's just an ordinary university student. But he's definitely skilled in killing people. You can't find anyone more accurate and ruthless than him in the army. You didn't look carefully at the wounds on those people's necks. Their throats were cut in an instant. The strength and angle were perfect. It's unbelievable. Wu Shan was shocked to hear Wu Tong admit that it was Chen Guang who did it. Wu Tong shushed him. Keep your voice down. Don't wake him up. He doesn't want me to tell anyone. My mind is in a mess. I don't know where he learned his skills. But that's not important. What's important is that he saved my life, right? Wu Shan grunted. That's right. I owe this kid a lot. If it wasn't for him, all right. If he doesn't want to say it himself, then you can keep it to yourself. Just remember that he saved your daughter's life. I can guarantee with my life that he's not an enemy spy. You haven't ascended to the throne yet. It's not worth it for others to invest in you. Don't think of me with your politician's mindset. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. You can go back. Wu Tong asked him to leave. As Wu Shan acknowledged, he took another glance at Chen Guang. When he saw Chen Guang holding hands with Wu Tong, his eyes instantly narrowed. However, he ultimately held it in and said, "Why don't you take a shower first? Don't you want to smell your body when you sleep like this? Don't you feel uncomfortable?" He wasn't wrong. Even now, Wu Tong and Chen Guang were covered in the stench of the sewers. They only disinfected their wounds and applied bandages. How could they have the time to care about other parts of their bodies? Wu Tong blushed. "Go away. It's none of your business." Wu Shan's mouth twitched. He turned around and left. Wu Tong had a million reasons to be willful in front of him. Wu Shan thought that his daughter had grown up. She had the right to make her own decisions. If he wasn't Wu Shan with so many scars in his past, but someone else with the same status as him, his daughter wouldn't have the right to enjoy freedom. Political marriages are the final destination for the next generation of people like me, but this kind of thing will never happen to my daughter. She has already lost too much in her previous life. In the future, I will give her all the freedom she wants. As a father, the most I can do is to give her some ideas and suggestions at some crucial moments. That's all. Of course, Wu Shan also knew that with Wu Tong's character, if she really made a decision, then no one would be able to change it. When Wu Shan turned around and left, Wu Tong began to feel troubled. She tried to pull her hand out of Chen Guang's grasp, but the guy was still holding onto it tightly even though he was asleep. She recalled her vow from before. She had to keep her word and never pull her hand away. It was one thing for her to stink, but as a police officer, she had encountered much worse situations. When she was chasing pigs for the public, Wu Tong had even fallen into a smelly sewer. It was embarrassing, but the police officers in the township police station had encountered many strange situations. But Chen Guang was seriously injured. He couldn't possibly continue to stink, right? The rotten water in the sewer was not only smelly, but God knows how many germs there were in it. So, she couldn't just ignore it. What should she do now? Wu Tong started to worry. Should she let the nurse wipe his body? Although this seemed to be the most reasonable solution, she still didn't feel good about it. Damn it. I'm going all out today. Wu Tong clenched her teeth and pressed the beeper to call the nurse over. She asked the nurse to bring 2 warm wet towels and a change of quilt. Then, she got up and half-knelt beside the bed, ready to get to work. Her left hand was tightly held by Chen Guang, and only her right hand could move. Looking at this guy sleeping like a dead pig, Wu Tong clenched her teeth again and started to pull up Chen Guang's clothes with one hand. There was a long wound on his stomach. It had been treated before and was wrapped in bandages. His upper body had been changed into a patient's gown, so only the pants on his lower body were more difficult to deal with. Wu Tong spent a total of 15 minutes to strip this guy down to a pair of CK underwear. She had also wiped almost all the parts of his body that could be wiped. Putting aside how dirty and smelly his jacket was, the underwear was between his legs, which was a good place to hide dirt. Other parts of his body only had dry black marks, but his armpit and inner thighs were black. Now that the armpit had been cleaned, only a small triangular area was left. Looking at this guy's bulging crotch, Wu Tong suddenly felt very embarrassed. She held the cold wet towel in her hand, which was submerged in water, and didn't know what to do. There was only one last step left, but she couldn't take it. She reached out her hand a few times with trembling hands, but she retreated in panic as if she had been electrocuted. She looked up at the clock in the ward. Unknowingly, it was almost 12:00 in the morning. Wu Tong kept taking deep breaths. She thought to herself, Wu Tong, he even risked his life for you. Now that he is injured like this, how can you let him sleep the whole night dirty? Men are the same as women. If they don't pay attention to their personal hygiene, they will definitely get sick, right? If you choose to ignore it because of this pointless shyness and ignore it, how can you be worthy of the 2 shots he took for you? How can you be worthy of the danger he put himself in for you? Although he did have some skills that ordinary people couldn't compare to, he was really on the verge of death when he fought with the other party and was pointed at the back of his head by Shizhou. So, I can't retreat. Anyway, he won't know anything after he injected me with anesthetics, right? Wu Tong bravely reached out her hand. Her fingertips hung on Xinguang's CK underwear and began to pull it down. The most powerful persuader in the world was often oneself. What could be easier than convincing oneself? Finally, Xinguang's underwear was pulled down. Wu Tong closed her eyes tightly and pulled her fingers down bit by bit. However, her left hand was firmly held by Xinguang. This guy seemed to be a little too tall, so the underwear that her right hand was pulling seemed to never end. She opened her arms wider and wider, and Wu Tong's body, which was half kneeling on the bed, was also getting lower and lower. Why haven't you taken it off? Should I open my eyes and look? Is it meaningless for me to close my eyes like this now? Anyway, I have to open my eyes when I wipe him later, right? So, Wu Tong opened her almond-shaped eyes. Strange, shouldn't I be looking at my right side? Why is my neck not listening to me and twisting to the left? Help. My head is out of control. Her head drooped weakly on Xinguang's calf, and she stared straight ahead with her eyes wide open. There seemed to be a black hole devouring her will. At this moment, the clock on the wall made a ticking sound, and the hour hand pointed to 12 o'clock. Chapter 317. Just at the moment when the hour hand was aligned. World of punishment completed. Sister is saved. Mission completed, perfect. The voice of the heavenly Holy Grail suddenly appeared in the depths of Xinguang's mind, waking him up from his deep sleep. He opened his eyes abruptly, and his consciousness awakened like a tide. The summer breeze blew, and a chill quickly spread throughout his body, from the tip of his toes to his forehead. He forced himself to lift his head, and look down. He saw his clean and smooth body. He looked past the thick bandage wrapped around his abdomen, and continued downwards. What he saw was Wu Tong's completely lost eyes, and her face was as red as the rising sun. She seemed to be completely lost in thought as she stared at the spot between his legs. What the hell? She wanted to molest me while I was asleep. I didn't expect you to be like this, Sister Wu Tong. The wind in the ward blew again, and the crotch area was chilly. Then, under the gaze of both of them, a pillar propping up the sky. Wu Tong was getting closer and closer to him, and she was completely cross-eyed. From Xinguang's point of view, he didn't want to look anymore, it was too dirty. Anyway, he could roughly imagine a little cat hiding its head behind a flashlight and playing hide and seek with someone. Wu Tong got closer and closer, and stared at him. She had always felt that this kid was especially good at fighting, and was also very strong. She really didn't expect him to be so strong here. Wait, how did he become like this while he was sleeping? What kind of weird things was this guy dreaming about? What a little hooligan. Her face was so red that she was like a patient with a high fever. She tried to pull her left hand, wanting to use her fingers to tease this little guy, but she couldn't pull it, so she gave up. Then, Wu Tong subconsciously looked up, and met Xinguang's eyes through the flashlight. Countless lightning flashed between their eyes, and 10,000 emotions ran through every corner of their hearts in an instant. The air stagnated at this moment, and time seemed to freeze. Wu Tong's mouth opened wider and wider, and she wanted to scream. Ah! Halfway through her scream, she slapped her right hand hard on her mouth. Thank God, at such a critical moment, she didn't even know which kind-hearted person had given her a handkerchief. With a handkerchief covering her mouth, she didn't have to scream. Wait, why does this handkerchief have a sour smell? Ah! These are his underwear. It turned out that she did not notice that Chen Guang's underwear had finally been ripped off his feet. Wu Tong was so frightened that she suddenly raised her hand. Bayou under their gazes, Chen Guang's beloved CK underwear drew a perfect arc in the air and flew out of the window. Chen Guang raised his hand in despair and made a grasping motion in the air. No. My underwear costs $700. No. The scream was heart-wrenching and heart-wrenching. On the other side, Wu Tong instantly regretted after throwing Chen Guang's underwear away. She got up and pounced forward to grab it, but it was impossible. Instead, she tripped over Chen Guang, who was lying on the hospital bed. Her whole body fell forward, and fortunately, her hands were holding onto something to prevent her from falling to the other side of the hospital bed. Ouch! Chen Guang dragged out the last syllable and let out a suppressed and shrill scream. Wu Tong turned her head and saw that her hand was pressed between this guy's legs. She was completely dumbfounded. She grabbed it, and it was so hot. Ouch! 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 Let go of me. It's broken. It's going to break. Chen Guang shouted. Wu Tong hurriedly let go of her hand. The temperature of her face could no longer be described as hot, it was almost on fire. At this moment, there was a clicking sound coming from the ward door. Apparently, the two's movements had attracted the attention of the nurses who were patrolling outside. In fact, the two's ward had always been the focus of attention. There was no need for Wu Shan to call out to them. This ward was not a place that ordinary people could enter. As expected of Wu Tong. At this moment, when she was on the verge of breaking down, she had already broken down. When she heard the sound of the ward door being unlocked, she immediately reacted and pulled the blanket over Chen Guang. The nurse poked her head in from the door. Is something wrong? Wu Tong and Chen Guang shook their heads in unison. It's nothing, nothing. The nurse looked at the two of them suspiciously. She saw that the man's face was pale and the woman's face was red. It seemed like something inappropriate had happened, but it didn't seem like it. Oh, if there's anything, just press the pager. I'll be right there. The nurse looked left and right for a while, and was about to leave and close the door. At this moment, a series of curses came from downstairs. Who the hell is so wicked? Throwing underwear downstairs in the middle of the night. It stinks. Tui. How wicked. Damn it. It's covering our heads. The nurse didn't close the door again. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that the two of them were suspicious. This is too wicked. Who the hell is so wicked? Chen Guang's words were filled with righteous indignation as he spoke. Wu Tong was stunned for about 10 seconds before she suddenly reacted. That's right. That's right. It's too wicked. The person downstairs is making quite a ruckus. Why don't you quickly inform the hospital security? It's not good to disturb the rest of the patients. The nurse muttered in her heart, sneaky. Then, she turned and left. Just as she closed the door, the nurse couldn't hold it in any longer. She suddenly turned back to open the door and poked her head in. She said casually, Mr. Chen's injuries are very serious. Although the medicine we use doesn't have any side effects, it's really not suitable for him to do any strenuous exercise. She finally left. Strenuous exercise. Female comrade, why are you so knowledgeable? Can you be a little more dignified? It's not what you think at all. Hearing the footsteps getting further away, Wu Tong heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she turned her head and saw Chen Guang's strange expression. The huge tent on top of the blanket finally collapsed again. Listen to me. It's not what you think. Wu Tong blushed and waved her hands. Chen Guang's mind was filled with many thoughts. No matter how he thought about it, he realized that he didn't know how to face her. So, he smiled decisively. It's fine, I don't mind. Please continue, don't stop. What are you thinking? I'm helping you wipe your body. Don't you think it stinks? So what if you're dirty? You're a patient. A patient. You're injured because of me. I'm your sister, the person you saved. I'm obligated to help you clean your body. Wu Tong said agitatedly and waved the handkerchief in her hand. Didn't you say that you can't let go? Chen Guang smiled awkwardly and quickly reached out to hold Wu Tong's left hand. Yes. It's a little itchy. The water in that stupid pool is quite dirty. Then continue. Wu Tong blushed again. Nodding his head, Chen Guang replied, yeah. Please continue. Close your eyes. I'm embarrassed. Wu Tong tried to pull the quilt away, but she couldn't muster up the courage. When Chen Guang heard that, he obediently laid down and closed his eyes. After that, he felt the quilt was pulled away again. There was a cold feeling between his legs. It was very embarrassing, but his heart felt inexplicably comfortable. Wu Tong also felt very embarrassed. She held the towel with her right hand and stared at him with her almond-shaped eyes. It's drooping. It's not easy to wipe it. Let go of my left hand. I'll hold it with my left hand. All right, there's no need for that. You sure move fast. Perhaps it was torture, or perhaps it was enjoyment. After 5 minutes, Wu Tong finally covered herself with the quilt. At this time, Chen Guang's face was also red. During this period, he secretly opened his eyes several times and saw Wu Tong's shy look. So embarrassing. Wait, something doesn't seem right? Wu Tong suddenly said. What's wrong? Chen Guang looked confused. It's okay. Although we're brother and sister, we're not really related by blood. It's not a mess. Something's wrong. It's really wrong. What's wrong? You're awake. You can wipe it yourself. The two looked at each other blankly. Their brains short-circuited. Completely short-circuited. The atmosphere in the ward was really awkward. Chapter 318. That seems to be the case. The atmosphere was silent for a long time. Chen Guang decided to break the silence and said hesitantly. Wu Tong suddenly sat up straight and put her face in front of Chen Guang. Did you think of it earlier? Did you do it on purpose? Chen Guang was stunned. In fact, he didn't have such a thought at all. Since he woke up at midnight and saw everything that happened in front of him, his brain was basically in a state of paralysis. But looking at Wu Tong's embarrassed and resentful look, he didn't know what was wrong with his brain, but he actually agreed. All right, I did it on purpose. Wu Tong suddenly smiled and stared at him with a pair of charming eyes. Perverted brother. F***CK. Look at your expression, are you going to eat me? Bah. My shoulder hurts. How could I not say it on purpose? You did the right thing. You spoke righteously and justifiably. Please don't doubt yourself, and please don't question my character. That's right, but you didn't even remind me. I short-circuited again. Anyway, you're a perverted brother. All right. Perverted brother then, whatever you say. Sigh, I'm 5 years older than you. Wu Tong moved closer to Chen Guang and looked at him for a long time. Suddenly, she felt bored and lay down. Chen Guang really wanted to say out loud, 5 years older than you is nothing. But even he didn't seem to believe it. It wasn't convincing. Wu Tong lay on her bed with a sluggish face. Her left hand was still tightly holding onto Chen Guang's right hand. Her mind was in a mess. By now, she could be completely sure of one thing. From the first day she met this guy, she was likely to fall into his trap. Although it was somewhat inexplicable, although there was no reason, the fact was right there. She had fallen in love with this guy for no reason. She had always wanted to struggle and get rid of him, but she couldn't do it no matter what. Every time she saw him, she wanted to be closer to him. Until now, she was completely unable to extricate herself. Even at that moment, a terrifying and crazy idea appeared in her mind. What was more frightening was that she clearly knew the age gap between them, but she didn't have any will to resist. She didn't even have the courage to deny herself. He and I are really destined to be enemies. How could Wu Tong understand that the first time she had feelings for Chen Guang was indeed because she had been hypnotized by Liuli? Since then, what remained in her heart was the sequela of the hypnosis. If she never saw Chen Guang again, the extra feelings that had been forced upon her would indeed gradually fade until they were obliterated by time without a trace. However, because she cared too much about this matter, she often thought about it in her heart and deepened her own memory. Then, she helped him solve Pan Zhang's problem, and by some strange coincidence, they recognized each other as brother and sister. Later, she met him by chance when they were catching thieves, and later, she even pulled her father over to help him. After meeting him time and time again, Chen Guang's character wasn't detestable at all. On the other hand, Wu Tong, who already had the first impression of being hypnotized, fell deeper and deeper into Chen Guang. Later, because of the misunderstanding between them, she actually took the initiative to give in to someone for the first time. Until today, when Chen Guang hid her behind a wooden board and left alone with Shijiao and the others, Wu Tong's feelings for him were set in stone. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done such a thing. She was actually bold enough to take the initiative to wipe his body. But why did he have to wake up? It would have been great if he hadn't woken up. Wu Tong gritted her teeth in hatred. Just as she was thinking about this, she suddenly clamped her legs together. Only then did she remember that she seemed to have also been in the reservoir. Women were much more troublesome in this aspect than men. Once she realized this, her body really itched more and more. Oh my God, I have to quickly wash up, or I'll get a gynecological disease. Can you let go of me? Wu Tong suddenly asked. Chen Guang's heart suddenly felt empty. What did this big sister's imagination run wild just now? Do you want to run away now? I can't accept this. I also went into the water. The water is so dirty and itchy. I have to wash up, or I'll get sick. Wu Tong blushed, thinking that since the two of them were in such a strange state, she might as well say whatever was on her mind. Chen Guang's heart suddenly felt at ease. Yes. Hurry up and wash up. That. I won't run. Actually, I don't hate this. It's just that I'm not mentally prepared yet. It's too sudden. Today, I only wanted to wipe you a little. Who knew that you could actually wake up after being injected with anesthetics? You better stop. Don't let your imagination run wild. At least not now. Wu Tong glared at him fiercely. After being shy for so long, she felt that she was not herself anymore. She also guessed the thoughts of this perverted younger brother of Chen Guang, so she simply straightened her face and glared at him fiercely. Chen Guang looked aggrieved. Aggrieved my ass. I've let you take advantage of me so much. You're going to eat me up today, are you? Come. I'll risk my life to accompany you. Come. As Wu Tong said that, she straightened her body and pulled her belt. F***CK. I've accidentally aroused her anger. Don't. I'm just joking. Besides, you're the one who took advantage of me. Chen Guang hurriedly explained. Wu Tong rolled her eyes, looking as if she had seen through him. Little guy, you think I don't know you? But I really can't today. Look at the bandage on my head. Look at the bandages all over your body. You're a wounded person, so you have to have the awareness of a wounded person. The nurse also said earlier that you shouldn't do strenuous exercise. After saying that, she got up and went to the toilet. This type of special care ward was indeed high-end. Then another day. Chen Guang forced himself to straighten his body. Wu Tong turned around and glanced at him. Another day depends on your performance. Anyway, you're the one who saved my life, and I don't have anyone else that I like for the time being. If you asked me to repay you with my body, I would have agreed immediately. I don't care if I'm older than you by a few years. But now, you've temporarily missed the opportunity. Qin Guang refused to give up. You can at least give me some benefits, right? Wu Tong blinked and pretended to ponder. Sure. But you better keep our relationship to yourself. I don't want the news to get out. It'll be like the mess in the police station. The whole world will say that I'm an old cow that eats young grass, but to the outside world, I'm still your noble, elegant, and classy sister. Qin Guang clenched his fist. I'm Gao Dian, and you're classy. I want to be classy. I'll beat the classy one, and I'll beat the classy one. After saying that, Wu Tong turned around and went into the toilet. She leaned against the wall, her heart pounding. She knew what her words meant, but in fact, what she said just now had convinced herself. Anyway, he was the one who saved her life, so it wasn't a big deal to give herself to him. Should she try to secretly date him first? Today, in the hospital, he was seriously injured, and his head was full of bruises. Imagining two people covered in bandages fighting each other on the hospital bed, sweating profusely, and then being seen by a nurse who happened to come in for a ward round, this scene was simply too terrifying. Thinking of the two big bloody holes on his shoulders, and his muscles were almost torn, Wu Tong really couldn't bear to torture Qin Guang in such a situation. Forget it, I'm not in a hurry. I'll find a suitable opportunity to watch a movie with him first. Then, I'll have a romantic candlelight dinner with him. Then, I'll bring him home and decorate the room in a festive manner. I want a wedding room in a rural style. No matter what, I can't give up my first time on a hospital bed. Or should I go out later and let him do it with my hands? Isn't this a popular thing among boys nowadays? Wu Tong didn't know that she had overestimated Qin Guang. Chapter 319. Listening to the pitter-patter of water coming from the bathroom, he couldn't help imagining the scene of her washing a certain spot. Lord Guang expressed that he had completely lost control of his chaos power. Unknowingly, his Qilin arm had already flared up. He was rather impressed with himself. Indeed, the Qilin arm was the strongest technique in the world. F***K, he clearly didn't even have the strength to pick up chopsticks after being shot in both arms, but by the time he reacted, his Qilin arm had already grasped the dragon vein. No way. No way. I'm an injured person. I can't do this to myself. I've clearly come to a realization, so why can't I control my body at all? I must be possessed by a demon. He forcefully raised his hand, affecting the injuries on his shoulders. His shoulders were clearly starting to hurt, but his hand just couldn't stop. Who can stop my Qilin arm that's out of control? Qin Guang roared in his heart as he felt his mouth dry to the point that smoke was about to come out of his throat. Thank you, the nurse, for pouring me a cup of water. Let the old man drink some water to calm his nerves and suppress this evil chaos power. Qin Guang was dumbfounded when he entered the world in the cup. F***K. I never expected that I would enter the world in the cup when my Qilin arm flared up. This is going to kill me. Liuli, please save me for the third time. The old man is going to die of ejaculation. Just as he roared in his heart, Qin Guang saw Liuli, who had transformed into a black pearl, sleeping soundly about 10 meters away. She had first scanned out the 3D model and then forcefully overdraft her powers to help Qin Guang open the heavenly Saint Grail. Liuli had indeed expended too much energy. Therefore, she was currently in a deep sleep, and it was a deep sleep after her transformation. At this moment, she was completely naked. Although your afro is very unsightly and your charred body is terrible, this is the first time I've had the opportunity to see such a great benefit. Riches come from danger. The bold are stuffed while the timid are starved. Qin Guang decisively moved to Liuli's side. This was a rare opportunity. She looked like a piece of charcoal from afar, so he had to get closer to take a look. 10 meters. 5 meters. 3 meters. Thank God, thank Earth, thank fate, let us meet. Although you look like you are wearing black stockings, your figure is really explosive. Not good. The dual Qilin arms were undone. Instead of asking for help, he was courting death. A terrifying suction force suddenly attacked him from behind. Before Chen Guang went in, he only had one thought in his mind. Am I really going to die this time? What the hell is waiting for me this time? I've never panicked like this before. It wouldn't really turn into the Qilin arm realm, right? Damn it, be reasonable. Normal people wouldn't be able to accept such a setting. Then, Chen Guang hit the water with a splash. Just as he poked his head out, he heard the emotionless electronic voice of the Holy Grail in his head. This is the world of the Qilin arm. The objective of the mission is to refine the strongest Qilin arm in history. F***ck me. Chen Guang face-bombed. Why is my cheat so shameful? How am I supposed to greet other protagonists in the future? Besides, didn't I just complete the realm of punishment? Why did the second world in cup come so quickly? Lori is still unconscious, and you're already here. Can't you at least prepare a little? No matter how unreasonable you are, you still have to abide by the basic rules, right? The old man was careless and fell into a trap. This world in cup is the reward world for the Redeemer after perfectly clearing the realm of punishment. There is no danger to your life. After clearing the stage, in addition to practicing the godly skill Qilin arm, you can also receive the power of the Holy Grail to quickly heal your injuries. The electronic voice of the Holy Grail spoke again. Obviously, after Lori was knocked out, the brainless voice of the Holy Grail took over Lori's role as a commentator. Huh? Reward? F***ck. So that's it. Chen Guang really wanted to cry. He was cheated by Lori. That is to say, the realm of punishment is so big, how can there be no benefits at all? This is completely not in line with the identity of the Holy Grail. It's just that this godly skill Qilin arm sounds really cool, but I still feel like something is wrong. Qilin arm is named after the Redeemer's own imagination. It refers to the Redeemer's arm strength increase. The increase is about 50% of the Redeemer's current arm strength. The electronic voice of the Holy Grail came again. Chen Guang was overjoyed. Oh my god, I was really scared to death. I really thought I was going to practice the strongest Qilin arm. It's just an increase in arm strength. In this regard, Chen Guang was already familiar with it. When he first came out of the Sea of Time, the side effect of reaching the 8th immortal god heaven allowed his body to be reborn overnight, maintaining the standard that he trained in the Sea of Time. Now, the realm of this Qilin arm might still be at the level of seeing the spirit sky, but it is related to the reward of the realm of life, so it is definitely not simple. It is only natural that it can increase his strength. Besides, his arms were injured in the realm of punishment, and the muscles on his shoulders were shredded by the bullets of others. If the power of the heavenly Holy Grail could heal them, then it would be natural for it to strengthen them a little, just like the realm of the transient sea. This Qilin arm, I can have it. I just don't know how to train it. Pull-ups? Push-ups? Although it is a bit cliché and boring, it feels good to be able to become stronger without recharging. I am already very strong now. If my arm strength increases by 50%, I might be able to challenge inner force experts like Second Uncle One. Tomorrow, this brother will become a super fighter. The test of the Qilin arm is about to begin. Redeemer, please prepare. Under Chen Guang's expectant gaze, countless strange cylindrical objects that have been forcibly censored gradually floated up from the water. They densely covered the 100-meter radius of the cup world pool like grass. What the hell? Why do these things look so familiar? He lowered his head and looked at a certain part of his body through the water. Chen Guang slapped his face. Wash the motor. He walked away. After such a big detour, you let me go from despair to hope, and now you instantly extinguish my hope. What's with this joke? I can't play this game anymore. He bravely swam forward and forced himself to take a closer look. Thank God, it is not like that. It is a standard metal cylinder. The brass material looks a bit similar to the skin color. But why would the Holy Grail hang two egg-sized pendants next to the metal pillar? There was no need for that at all, okay? Are you trying to scare me? This is very easy to misunderstand, okay? An electronic voice came from the air. Please use friction to generate heat to ignite the brass fireworks. If it is successfully launched, the index of the Qilin arm will increase by 1. Additional explanation: the shape of the brass fireworks is set according to the most commonly used item of the Redeemer. It can increase the Redeemer's sense of immersion. Friction to generate heat. Brass fireworks. Launch. What do you mean by most commonly used item? Although the old man is an experienced driver, I drive an online taxi, not a car. I will never admit this kind of thing even if you beat me to death. Your Holy Grail is so indecent. The method you use to train the Qilin arm is too shameful. I protest. Chen Guang covered his face. Chapter 320. In a sense, the normal training method for the Qilin arm was indeed like this. However, the twists and turns really tortured his heart. Fine, I'll just accept my fate. This is much better than what I was worried about at the beginning, where I would die of exhaustion. If he had to blame something, he could only blame himself for being too relaxed and falling into the trap of the heavenly Holy Grail. It was also Laurie's fault, that damned liar. There was clearly such a huge reward after completing the punishment realm, but in order to make him ignore Wu Tong, she actually lied through her teeth. Apart from that, Chen Guang secretly swore that he would definitely be an upright gentleman in the future and would not easily give himself false promises, especially when doing certain things. He had to endure that disaster that his own wretchedness had attracted, even if he had to hold back his tears. Closing his eyes, Chen Guang silently stretched out his hands. After a long time, Baiyu, the fireworks were launched, and the cup realm above his head shone with a brilliant light. A huge, from, character floated in the sky. Pass, Qilin arm index +1. The old man's Qilin arm had become a little stronger. There was really no need to top up. Since the brass fireworks were soaked in water, it was needless to say how strong the thermal conductivity of copper was. It was not easy to generate enough heat from friction to launch the fireworks. Fortunately, the cup realm was considerate enough to consider his difficulties. On the one hand, it made the surface of the brass fireworks into a frosted state to increase the friction efficiency, and on the other hand, it made the calluses on his hands grow abnormally fast. Furthermore, his arms were never tired and could move crazily like a perpetual motion machine. He would not feel hungry or tired, and his body would not swell even if it was soaked in water. As soon as he squeezed his hands, he could clearly feel the calluses on his palms growing like weeds in spring. Chen Guang could not help but complain. Although it was a free reward, it was not easy at all. It was more boring than sharpening pencils, and more difficult than playing Dota. The heavens took pity on him. When he was dealing with the fourth brass fireworks, the quick-witted Chen Guang realized something was amiss. The words formed by the first 4 fireworks were read together, starting from 0. As a veteran web novel reader, Master Guang felt that these 4 words were really F***king familiar. But he had a bad feeling about this. Could it be, after 5,000 fireworks, Chen Guang plunged his head into the water? He planned to drown himself. It turned out to be the first chapter of the masterpiece, starting from 0, which was more than 20 million words long. What the F***ck? I'm so F***ked up. Many years ago, when he was still a high school student, he once complained that if the book ended one day, his old friend who was still alive would print it out on A4 paper and burn it for him in the underworld. This year, the book was really finished. Chen Guang remembered that he couldn't hold on after reading more than 1,000 chapters. Until now, he still didn't have the courage to open the book again. So here's the problem. Do I have to use the fireworks mode to read the book? Just thinking about it was terrifying. There was no reason for this. This pool of water with a radius of more than 100 meters couldn't possibly contain more than 20 million brass fireworks, right? The density didn't match. Chen Guang turned around and found that the brass firework, which had sunk after being fired, had quietly emerged again. Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. This dog has a resurrection function. It can be recycled. He really had no idea how much time had passed. Perhaps it had been so long that he had lost track of time. Thankfully, the Holy Grail's thoughtfulness had stopped his train of thought, or else he would have collapsed after reading more than 100 chapters. The difficulty of using calluses to generate heat was not something a web novelist could compare to. In the beginning, it was already impressive to be able to light one firework in 10 minutes, but as he got more and more familiar with the process, the frequency of his hands shaking increased, and the time shortened to 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 second, half a second. Chen Guang's hands were shaking at an extreme speed. The frequency of the shaking was even faster than a special machine that had its own rotating rotor. He floated on the surface of the water with his hands raised in front of him. He took a deep breath. In that instant, with his hands as the center, the surface of the lake in the world of the cup surged to both sides, the waves reaching 20 to 30 meters into the air. In the blink of an eye, there was a "bye" sound, and the fireworks shot into the sky. The waves stopped, and the water stopped. All that was left was the lonely back with half of his body submerged in the water. That was how confident he was with the terrifying ultra-high frequency vibration. In fact, the Holy Grail could not be blamed for this. His strength was already at the level of a veteran pirate, much stronger than the average person. On top of that, he had increased it by 50%, almost at the level of a world weightlifting champion. Since it could not change his body shape too obviously, the Holy Grail could only use this stupid method to train the muscles in his arms. It trained his muscle structure day after day, year after year, until it reached or even exceeded the limits of human muscle fibers. Although it was a scam, it was really effective. When the words "book complete" finally appeared, Chen Guang's tears streamed down his face. Chapter 321. Why aren't you sleeping? Are you? Wu Tong said as she stretched out her left hand to hold Chen Guang's hand. Chen Guang quickly hid his hands under his butt. Don't. I'm not pulling anymore. What would happen if she managed to hold his hand? She could suffer a comminuted fracture at any moment. The bed started to shake. The frequency was high, but the intensity was low. Thanks to the Special Care Unit's super durable mattress, he knew it was this brand. Wu Tong was puzzled. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Oh, I've thought about it. This is a ward today, and it's not convenient. But I can. As she said that, she stretched her hand under Chen Guang's blanket. She was really going to do what she had decided in the toilet. Chen Guang stared at her. He wanted to stop her but did not dare to take his hand out. His butt was hurting badly, but he had to hold on. Don't, but it was too late. She had already touched the wet, sticky mass. Wu Tong was also confused. She took her hand out and sniffed. It smells fishy. Chen Guang wanted to cover his face again, but he remembered what happened before he left the world in the cup. He did not dare to do so. His face was not as thick as his butt. With the frequency and intensity of the shaking, his cheekbones would definitely break if he touched his face. I was going to help you with my hand, but you're not doing your best. You can't blame me for that. Wu Tong was pleased. Since she had already made up her mind, she was able to let it go. She was indeed a tough woman. Virgin? Just thinking about it is enough to cause an avalanche? Chen Guang nodded. Yes. What a coincidence. I'm also a virgin. Wu Tong grinned. What a coincidence. Since we're so fated to meet, and since you have guns in your hands, I'll reluctantly take care of the wounded. Don't let your imagination run wild. Please treat me as an honest police officer. As Wu Tong spoke, she grabbed a box of toilet paper and stretched her hand into Chen Guang's bed to clean him up. 5 minutes later. Comrade Wu Tong, can we talk about this? Can you take your hand away? I feel weird. Tired of it already? I think it's fun. No. I have another reason. It's very important, but I don't know how to tell you. Chen Guang was truly enjoying it, but his hands were trembling too violently. His butt was on the verge of exploding. He was in pain and happiness at the same time. The pain kept stacking, and it gradually overcame the pleasure. Wu Tong looked at his serious expression and couldn't help but feel disappointed. I'm really not sick of it. It's just a special situation today. Let's continue another day. Chen Guang caught onto her emotions and immediately comforted her. Wu Tong finally stopped. All right, another day it is then. I clearly feel that there's movement again. That night, Chen Guang slept on his side. He didn't dare to place his hands under the blanket, so he placed them outside. In any case, he didn't have to be afraid of mosquitoes. My butt hurts. I don't even need to look at it to know that there are 2 patches of bruises. Behind him, Wu Tong had unknowingly moved closer to his back. He didn't know if she was really asleep or pretending to be asleep, but her sleeping posture was terrible. She hugged Chen Guang's back like an octopus. Chen Guang could only use his back and his healthy buttocks to firmly press against Wu Tong's chest and stomach. On the other hand, he desperately stretched his hands out of the bed, not daring to let her touch his hands. When will this super mighty tremor stop for me? Originally, this was a great opportunity for him to grope her, but it seemed that he couldn't use his hands now. If it wasn't for this lousy matter and Wu Tong's shameless behavior, Chen Guang would have at least had a taste of her. Sigh, he felt sorry for himself. Paw. There was another soft paw sound on his fingers. It was like the electric sparks from an ultraviolet mosquito killer. Another poor little life left the world. The excitement gradually faded, and the anesthetic hit his heart again. Chen Guang's eyelids became heavier and heavier. Thank God for the anesthetic. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to sleep today. Wu Tong was actually stunned. Under normal circumstances, she should have known that with the injuries on both of Chen Guang's shoulders, he wouldn't be able to sleep like this. But at this time, she was not normal. She walked between life and death. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't tired. Her brain was also moving slowly. She really fell asleep. Hugging her brother's big doll, she slept peacefully like never before. The next morning, Wu Tong woke up first. She comfortably twisted her body and pressed her face against the big doll. It was warm, fleshy, and made of real leather. Stepping over the big plushie's body, he grabbed a certain part in the middle of the plushie, as if he was grabbing something even hotter and harder. Wu Tong slowly regained consciousness. Her brain was still a little stiff. She squeezed her right hand hard. Was it a cylindrical hand warmer? The material of this real leather was really good workmanship. Suddenly, a thought flashed across her mind. She suddenly opened her eyes and woke up in shock. What kind of sleeping posture was this? What was I doing with my hand? No, what was I afraid of? Didn't I think it through? Wu Tong didn't let go. She quietly lifted her body and looked at Chen Guang's face. This guy was really sleeping soundly. His saliva was all over the pillow. It was still early in the morning, and he was already pointing a gun out the window. What a bad brother. She added a little more force. Gun in hand, follow me. At this time, the door of the ward suddenly opened. Wu Tong quickly covered Chen Guang with the quilt and sat on the bed, cross-legged, as if she was cultivating. The person who barged in was none other than her good friend, Tang Ying. Tang Ying's face was a little pale, as if she had suffered a great shock. Wu Tong, are you okay? I woke up early in the morning and heard that last night. Before she could finish her sentence, she saw Wu Tong sitting on the edge of the bed. She threw herself at Wu Tong and burst into tears. She whimpered, "You scared me to death. Why didn't you come to my hospital? How did I find out about such a big thing from other people's mouths? How could you do this to me, you damned girl?" Wu Tong was embarrassed. She patted Tang Ying's back and spent a lot of effort to calm her best friend down. She shushed her again. "Lower your voice. It's all because of this guy that we didn't go to your hospital. Don't wake him up. Sleep will help him recover." Qin Guang narrowed his eyes. He was already cursing Tang Ying in his heart. "If you weren't my mother's attending physician, would have cut all ties with you right now. Did the heavens send you here to punish me? I'm going to explode." On the other side, Tang Ying and Wu Tong were already chatting in low voices. Tang Ying harshly blamed Wu Tong, saying that she was not good enough to not inform her about such a big thing. Chapter 322. Wu Tong spent a lot of time and effort to convince Tang Ying. She even sold out Qin Guang at the same time, but she didn't go into details. She only told Tang Ying that her survival this time was all thanks to Qin Guang, her younger brother. Tang Ying's mouth was agape. She turned her head from Wu Tong's side and looked at Qin Guang a few more times. Does this kid want to die? How dare he get involved in this kind of thing? Don't tell me he fell in love with you? Wu Tong blushed as she tried to defend herself. Don't overthink it. He's my brother, and I'm his sister. Anyway, if it weren't for him, I'd really be dead. Tang Ying recalled the first time she met Qin Guang. She didn't know what to think, but she nodded. He's quite special. I really envy you for having such a good brother. Why are you envious of me? We're good sisters. He's my brother, so he's your brother too. Besides, you saved Auntie Feng's life. If something happens to you, he won't just stand by and watch. On the other hand, Wu Tong started comforting Tang Ying. In her heart, Qin Guang was basically a living saint. Last night, you two slept here together? Tang Ying suddenly asked out of nowhere. Wu Tong nodded. He wouldn't let go of my hand no matter what. He said he had to hold my hand. I couldn't leave, and I didn't even go to the summary meeting. He didn't do anything to you? Wu Tong blushed. No, I took advantage of him a lot. But taking care of patients, I'm just doing it. Don't overthink it. Look at your blushing face. Do you think I'm blind? Can the two of us not play the hypocritical game? After so many years, do you think I don't know you? Come on, just tell me what's going on. I know your temperament. You'll tell me sooner or later. Why don't you just admit it now? That's right. What's wrong with you? Tang Ying said softly. She was happy for Wu Tong, but at the same time, she felt a sense of loss. I knew I couldn't hide it from you. But I'm 5 years older than him. Yeah, you're much older. But what does it matter? I couldn't care less about what would happen in the future. I was determined to be an iron-blooded police officer. Who knows when I might die for the country. I didn't want to leave any regrets. I don't care. I've already made up my mind. Wu Tong said resolutely. Unless he's tired of me. My life is his. As his sister, I have the obligation to teach him something that only adults understand. Tang Ying gasped. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Wu Tong rolled her eyes and said shamelessly, what's there to be ashamed of? What's wrong with being a 25-year-old spinster and having a taste of tender grass? I'm also a normal woman. There were also normal needs in that aspect. I didn't have a suitable partner in the past. I think he's pretty good. You, on the other hand, aren't you already so old? He. I won't be able to accompany you in the future. When will you? All right. Fine. Come on. Don't drag me into this. I'm not as flirtatious as you. Alright, I'm too lazy to care about you. But you can't lose your humanity when you have the opposite sex. You can't forget your old sister after having a little man. Tanging chuckled. Her tone was indescribably vulgar. Damn. So the two of you have such a dirty and corrupt relationship. But why am I inexplicably looking forward to it? This isn't right. Chen Guang, who had been pretending to be asleep, eavesdropped on the two's whispers. He felt that his outlook on life had been severely impacted. City people really know how to have fun. The world of adults is too scary. These two women actually have a secret affair. No wonder the two of them are so decisive. I'm so shocked. Oh right, how did you take advantage of him yesterday? Tang Ying asked again. Her voice was very low and seemed to have a slight tremble. She seemed to be very curious and a little perverted. She seemed to have recalled the brief flirting with Chen Guang that day at her house. The sound of Wu Tong scratching her head could be heard. She scratched her head a little. Actually, it's nothing. I just helped him wipe his body. Nothing really happened. In the end, Bai. Yeah. Tang Ying sighed. As expected. You're like an old cow that eats young grass. You can't do it for now. What's wrong? What's wrong? What do you mean? Are you against it? Wu Tong panicked. Tang Ying sighed again. No, it's something else. Oh right, you've met his father, right? It's Chen Guoli's Uncle Chen. Yeah, I've met him. He's a pretty good uncle. What's wrong? Tang Ying wanted to say something but stopped. Some time ago, Uncle Chen asked me for a prescription to treat kidney deficiency. He said it was for a relative in his hometown, but I later found out that the prescription was actually for Chen Guang. He's sick. Kidney deficiency. Chen Guang gritted his teeth. He wanted to smash his fist into her ribs. Can they still have a pleasant conversation? Why did the two of you suddenly become like this when you were just chatting nicely? Can you not touch a sore spot? That's not what happened at all. What made him even more depressed was that the topic of their conversation immediately shifted to Chen Guang's kidney deficiency. Last night, he had only heard the shower sound, and had taken action within 5 minutes, which had become irrefutable evidence in their eyes. The two of them immediately hit it off. One was the self-proclaimed attending physician of Chen Guang, and the other was the self-proclaimed sister. Both of them decided to save this young and pitiful man who had lost his footing. Wu Tong even swore to herself that before his kidney deficiency was cured, she must restrain herself and not provoke him. After all, the essence of a person with kidney deficiency was especially precious. Overexerting it would definitely damage the foundation. If she gave him another taste of it, it would be disastrous. Hearing this, Chen Guang couldn't hold himself back anymore. He sat up straight and stared at the two of them. He pretended to rub his sleepy eyes. F***ck. Fortunately, his hands stopped shaking after a night. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. What did you just say? Kidney deficiency? Sister Tang Ying? Why are you here? F***ck. Don't tell me the two of you are saying that I have kidney deficiency. Chen Guang prided himself on his acting skills. He couldn't let the two of them know that he had woken up. Did you hear that? Wu Tong blushed. She immediately put on the attitude of a big sister and patted his head. Don't be sad. It can be cured. Tang Ying looked at him from the side. I still say the same thing. You're still young. Don't give up on treatment. What the F***ck? I really don't have that problem. This, if you don't believe me, let me have a checkup. Chen Guang really wanted to find a rope and hang himself. Tang Ying continued, actually, it's hard to come up with an accurate conclusion about kidney deficiency using Western medicine's theory. After all, for normal people, there are long and short periods. A short period of 10 seconds is normal, and a long period of half an hour to an hour isn't an exaggeration. Everyone's physique is different, and the checkup won't be able to tell the difference. You don't have back pain or weak legs, so the checkup results will definitely show that you're fine. Then why did you insist that I have a kidney deficiency? Chen Guang continued to protest. Chapter 323. Tang Ying rolled her eyes at him disdainfully. But you lost your composure just by listening to the sound. You're definitely sick. Stop quibbling. Whatever you say is useless. I've seen a lot of patients like you. Wu Tong also chimed in. Yesterday, I thought it was fun to pinch it, but you said you had another reason and didn't let me play. At that time, you said it wasn't easy to talk about it. It must be because you're weak in that area. I know it's difficult to talk about it. You're afraid of a continuous leak in a short period of time, right? Chen Guang was dumbfounded. You're so shameless. Continuous leak? No wonder you're a civil servant. Even if you're talking about something so wretched, you can still put it so nicely. At that moment, the nurse who was changing Chen Guang's dressing pushed the door open and came in. She was shocked when she saw Chen Guang sitting up. She rushed over and pressed him down on the bed. Lie down. Lie down. Do you want to die? Do you want to become a disabled person? Chen Guang reacted. His arm was as good as new overnight. If the nurse removed the bandage on the spot, many people would pee in their pants. He might even be sent to the lab to be cut up and used as a lab rat. He didn't say anything. If he couldn't explain himself, the old man would run away first. He didn't care if his crotch was empty or not. Anyway, he had the patient's pants to cover it. He jumped off the bed and hung his sports bag with his neck. Then, he deliberately lowered his arms and pretended to be weak. He shouted like a madman as he ran out of the room. I'm not sick. I'm not weak. I'm not weak. You two bastards. In the blink of an eye, Chen Guang was nowhere to be seen. In less than 10 seconds, a commotion could be heard from downstairs. Chen Guang had already dashed out of the hospital and onto the streets. It only took him 10 seconds to get down the stairs. Wu Tong, Tang Ying, and the nurse looked at each other. The nurse had no idea what was going on. Wu Tong looked at Tang Ying blankly. Isn't his reaction a little too much? Tang Ying sighed. Sigh, how pitiful. He's under too much pressure. Running out of the hospital, Chen Guang didn't plan to go back. He casually stopped a taxi on the road. He couldn't go back to school because Wu Tong would probably go back to school to look for him because she was worried about his injury. Chen Guang was distressed. Where should he go now? This patient gown was too loose, and there was a gap inside. He felt that something was wrong. Bro, what are you wearing? Don't tell me you're a mental patient who escaped from the hospital. The taxi driver in front of him didn't look carefully when he was picking him up. Now he began to get nervous. From time to time, he pretended to look back at his patient's clothes from the rearview mirror, intentionally or unintentionally. Can we still have a pleasant chat? Do I look like a psychopath? I'm a proper student of a prestigious university, okay? Take me downtown first. I need to change. It's so annoying. I told you that I could be discharged from the hospital, but my family insisted on being stubborn and made me grow hair all over my body. Chen Guang lied through his teeth. The taxi driver started to talk about life philosophy. Young man, don't blame your family for being long-winded. The elders are doing this for your own good, yes, yes, yes. Thank you, brother driver. Listen to me. In this life, health is the most important thing. If Chen Guang knew that his lie would trigger the driver's chatterbox, he wouldn't have spouted such nonsense even if he was beaten to death. When he arrived downtown, he was on the verge of a breakdown. He had no cash on him, so he used his mobile phone to transfer 50 yuan to the driver and ran away. He rushed into the department store and changed his clothes under the astonished gaze of countless people. In the changing room, he looked at his shoulders in the mirror for a long time. He could still vividly remember how badly his shoulders were injured last night. But at this time, looking at his shoulders in the mirror, there were no injuries at all. All he could see was his strong, angular muscles. He took a step back and punched the air in front of him. There was a faint whistling sound in the air. Chen Guang didn't know how strong his arm strength was, but the power of this punch was indeed much stronger than before. He estimated that he could blow up a sandbag with one punch. Although it wasn't easy to get the Kirin arm, it was indeed powerful. Chen Guang hid outside for 3 days before he dared to go to Wujing City Hospital. He had no choice but to explain to Wu Tong and Tang Ying that his shoulders felt uncomfortable as soon as he ran out, so he simply found another hospital to lie down. The two asked him which hospital he was in. Of course, Chen Guang wouldn't tell them. He only said that his heart was hurt and that he needed to think about his life alone. As for his parents, it was another set of excuses. Chen Guang only told his father that he went to find Jiang Yage and would be back in a few days. As for how to comfort his mother, it was his father's business. Anyway, Jiang Yage had taken countless scapegoats. There was no harm in taking one more. It was easy to persuade his classmates. It was summer vacation time, so everyone had to go home one after another. After talking to his 3 grandchildren on the phone, they left Wujing according to the original plan the next day. Sun Xiaoxuan insisted on seeing Chen Guang, or else she wouldn't even take the plane. Chen Guang had no choice but to sneak back to the school and drive his car. He personally sent Sun Xiaoxuan to the airport and let her see his healthy body. Only then did he appease her. Wu Tong looked for Chen Guang for 2 days, but she couldn't find him. She had no choice but to return to Wenqing. Her commendation had been announced. Although she still held the position of a branch captain, her administrative rank was directly promoted to the deputy director of the Wenqing branch. With her background, this meant that she had taken the first step to a meteoric rise. At the age of 25, she became the deputy director of a township branch, deputy section chief, and a first-class supervisor. She also had such a great credit on her back. In the future, as long as Wu Shan didn't fall and she didn't make any principled mistakes, no one could stop her from rising. Wu Shan was also happy. Of course, he wanted to promote Wu Tong's position as soon as possible so that his precious daughter wouldn't have to charge in the front line all day. Now that it was justifiable, no one could say that he, Wu Shan, practiced favoritism and made an exception to promote his daughter. Could you? Why don't you try to defeat 7 bandits by yourself? Although Wu Shan didn't have more opportunities to thank Chen Guang in person, he asked Wu Tong to pass the message to him. Anyway, he owed Chen Guang a big favor, and he would be family in the future. In addition, Chen Guang received another 200,000 yuan as a Good Samaritan award. If it was in the past, the poor old man would definitely jump 3 feet high. But now, he had so much money in his bank account that he was too lazy to count it. He could only ask Wu Tong to collect the money on his behalf and transfer the money to his bank card. He didn't even want to show his face in front of Wu Tong to collect the money. There was really no way to explain the injury on his shoulder. On the evening of the 3rd day, Chen Guang found a community hospital, gave a few hundred yuan for free, and asked the doctor to wrap a thick layer of white bandages on his shoulders. Then, he braced himself and went to Wujing City Hospital. Maybe it was a little too rushed, but Chen Guang missed his mother. About 2 hours ago, in the jungle more than 100 miles away from Wujing City, there was an unprecedented fierce gunfight. Chapter 324. The anti-tracking ability of World Number 8 and his men was indeed terrifying, but what was even more terrifying was the team led by Xuelin. They were as vicious as a viper and as sharp as a hunting dog. World Number 8 and his men tried their best, but they were still bitten by them. The intelligence capability of the Chinese military was fully revealed. Terrorists who dared to break into China would be severely injured if not killed. Everyone else died, and world number 8 lost a layer of skin. Apart from world number 8, the others were all executed. Everyone had the right to punish these bandits. Their existence was a hidden danger, and they dared to enter China's territory. The military's attitude was extremely firm. If you dare to come, we dare to fight. If you come, we must fight. If you fight, we must win. This was the unshakable principle that the Chinese military had adhered to for decades. It was extremely tough, and it was only to defend the prestige of the country. It wouldn't retreat just because you belonged to some extraordinary organization. In recent decades, the Huaxia military had always been so tough, so this land had become a rare pure land in the increasingly dangerous and terrifying international situation. Shui Lin wiped the blood off his face and looked coldly at the corpse of the white man whose head had been smashed. He was in a terrible mood. In the end, one of them had escaped. In addition, he had lost 3 brothers on his side. The enemy was too strong, especially the Chinese man who had escaped. His marksmanship was extremely accurate, his movements were even more agile, and he had extremely rich experience in jungle warfare. If he hadn't raised his hand and shot him in the wrist by a fluke, which scared him away, he was afraid that the losses on his side would have been even more disastrous. His comrades also had ashen faces. The most important bond between men was that they had carried a gun together. No soldier could remain indifferent to the death of a comrade. In the communication device, the Major General in charge of remote command comforted Shui Lin. "Little Shui, you don't have to blame yourself. Being able to escape with only one person is already more than enough to complete the mission. The other party is the top soldier of the Broken World Organization. It's normal for him to have some extraordinary skills. Because this was a special mission, the compensation for the dead soldiers was increased by 50%. We will properly arrange their funeral." But in World Number 5's third steel factory, the other group of bandits was completely annihilated. There were no casualties. Wu Tong was just an ordinary police officer. "We are the chosen soldiers, but I..." Shui Lin's voice was full of self-blame and unwillingness. There was a brief silence on the phone, and the Major General sighed. "There's something fishy about this. You don't have to compare. You've really done a good job." Shui Lin cut off the communication device. Her eyes were bloodshot. 3 of my brothers died here, but Sister Wu Tong wiped out all the enemies by herself without any injuries. How could I not compare? He wasn't jealous of Wu Tong, who had grown up with him in the compound. He was just blaming himself. Shui Lin knelt on the ground and looked at the corpse of her comrade. She punched her chest again and again. "Why am I so weak?" At this time, Chen Guang was also not feeling well. Originally, after entering the hospital and chatting with his parents, Master Guang was in a good mood when he saw that his mother's spirit was improving day by day. Then, he was dragged out by Tang Ying. When he was in the ward, he completely forgot to continue pretending to be injured. He couldn't pretend to be injured in front of his parents either. He poured water, peeled fruits, and helped his mother fiddle with the tablet to find a TV show. Tang Ying saw everything from the beginning to the end. Her beautiful eyes kept sweeping up and down his shoulder, looking like she wanted to say something but was hesitant. Tang Ying knew that Chen Guang had a gunshot wound on his shoulder. Seeing him pretending to be fine in order not to worry his parents, she felt an indescribable pain in her heart. But she couldn't expose him at this time, so she felt terrible. Every time Chen Guang moved, Tang Ying's eyelids would twitch violently, as if she was the one in pain. "This is a gunshot wound. You won't be able to stop taking the medicine for half a month, and it will take at least 2 to 3 months to recover. You're destroying your own hand. You're going to become a disabled person." Finally, Tang Ying couldn't hold it in anymore. She came forward with a stiff face and said that she wanted to borrow Chen Guang's help. Then, she grabbed his clothes and dragged him out. Chen Guang knew that he was going to be interrogated, so he had no choice but to follow her out with a bitter face. "Do you want to die? Don't you feel any pain?" Tang Ying raised her hand and wanted to pinch Chen Guang's shoulder, but she didn't dare to touch him. She didn't have as many thoughts about Chen Guang as Wu Tong did. It was just that she had received a great favor from him, and she knew what he had done to earn money to save her mother. Moreover, she was touched by his crying appearance on the day of the successful surgery, so she treated him as a true friend. Now that she saw him shamelessly treating his injury, she couldn't help but worry for him. It's actually not that serious. Chen Guang thought for a moment and decided to throw the blame to the mysterious expert. I don't care if you believe it or not, I'll say it anyway. Actually, I met a very mysterious guy in the past few days. He gave me a black ointment, and I don't feel any pain at all after a few days. How is that possible? Nonsense. As a senior medical worker, Tang Ying didn't believe it from the bottom of her heart. Chen Guang stared at her and said, "It's true. Look." As he said that, he simply posed like a bodybuilder. Tang Ying pulled Chen Guang and dragged him to her dorm room. She forced him to take off his jacket and removed his bandages, insisting on seeing what was going on. When Tang Ying saw his perfect deltoid muscles, she covered her mouth and looked up and down for a long time. She really couldn't find any trace of injury, not even a scar. Oh my God. This is a miracle in the history of medicine. This is a miracle. Where do you think that person is? Which hospital is it? Take me there. This is a Nobel Prize in medicine. Tang Ying wasn't making a fuss out of nothing. On the contrary, as a doctor from Moreland's Medical College, she had seen a lot of things, but she had never met anyone who could completely recover from a gunshot wound in just 3 days without any signs of injury. Chen Guang also put on a shocked expression and asked, "MHM? There was a big scar this morning, and it's gone now? Which hospital is it? Tell me." Scratching his head, Chen Guang replied, "Actually, I'm lying to you guys. I wasn't in the hospital for the past few days, and I found a hotel to stay after meeting that person. That person would only change my bandages once a day. This morning, he changed my bandages and left. He didn't leave me any contact information. I asked him, but he wouldn't give it to me. Before he left, he only said something like, 'There is no Bodhi tree, how can there be dust?' This kind of strange and meaningless words." Huh. Tang Ying subconsciously felt that he was talking nonsense, but his unscathed shoulder was clearly in front of her. She had no choice but to believe him. Seeing her distracted look, Chen Guang put on his clothes and patted her shoulder to comfort her. "Don't be too upset. The world is big, and there are all kinds of strange things. There is no end to learning." Tang Ying nodded blankly. "Indeed. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to the ward." Seeing that she had been bluffed, Chen Guang decisively prepared to slip away. Okay. Let me think first. What kind of medicine could have such an effect, and what's the theory behind it? Take your time to think about it. I'll make a move first." Chen Guang chuckled as he opened Tang Ying's room door and walked out. As soon as he stepped out, a young man in casual clothes with a pale face appeared in front of Chen Guang. When he heard the door open, he stopped daydreaming and stared straight at Chen Guang. "Chen Guang, you killed Sergio's group, right?" Chapter 325. Chen Guang suddenly stopped in his tracks. He turned around to look at the young man with narrowed eyes. He smelled a familiar scent from this person, which made him exceptionally vigilant. That's right, he smelled blood just like he did in the transient sea, as if he had just killed someone not long ago. The other party's words were too straightforward and caught him off guard. Chen Guang quickly became alert. Could Sergio's accomplices have found their way here? What about my parents? A terrifying killing intent swept out from his body in an instant, and the air seemed to freeze at this moment. "Don't be nervous, I'm not an enemy. I'm Xue Lin, a childhood friend of Sister Wu Tong." "I'm a soldier," Xue Lin spoke again. Xue Lin opened his mouth again. He realized that he couldn't continue acting tough, otherwise, he might really die. The moment he was enveloped by Chen Guang's murderous intent, he couldn't help but feel his hair stand on end even with his experience in battle. Chen Guang's murderous intent retracted instantly. Soldier? Why are you looking for me? How those people died has nothing to do with me. I'm just a good citizen who happened to be in the right place. You can just lie to others about this. There's no need to resort to insinuations. I've been following Sister Wu Tong since I was 3. How can I not know how capable she is? I don't expect you to admit it, because it's not important. It's fine as long as I know you killed Shizhou's men. I smell a familiar scent from you. You're the same kind of person as me. Your hands are also stained with blood. Chen Guang spread his hands. What you think is none of my business. Goodbye. Chen Guang had already made up his mind that he wouldn't admit it even if he was beaten to death. For the military to come knocking on his door so quickly, he couldn't rule out the possibility that they've taken a fancy to his ability. What kind of joke is this? I'm a millionaire, all right? Do I have to go and live my life like you guys? Although I'm somewhat patriotic, I'm not that enlightened. I'm busy dealing with the heavenly Holy Grail and don't have the time to protect the country. I don't have the time to protect the country with you guys. At most, I'll just wait until I become the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail. A random decree can guarantee China's safety for 10,000 years. Stop. Seeing that he was about to leave, Xuelin became anxious. She suddenly said from behind, other than Ninth Brother's group, the bandits were split into 2 groups. There was another group led by another warrior of the Shattered World, Eighth Brother. I led my special forces in pursuit. The other bandits were killed by me and my comrades, but Eighth Brother managed to escape. Chen Guang stopped in his tracks. So you're here to remind me? Will they take revenge on me? Xuelin shook her head. No. They probably won't find you, but they might find Sister Wu Tong. That might not be the case. Uncle Wu kept the news under wraps. He only held a very small commendation ceremony in private. At that time, the police issued a gag order. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall, right? Chen Guang asked. Xuelin nodded. Indeed. What do you mean? Don't you want to completely eradicate that world breaker you mentioned? Wu Tong will be in danger at any time. Xuelin shook her head again. No, Sister Wu Tong's status is extraordinary. Our Chinese soldiers aren't pushovers. Although the Shattered World is well known internationally, they might not dare to openly declare war on us. As long as they don't leave the country, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Alright, you came to me today just to remind me of this? Then let me thank you, Chen Guang said. Not only that, 3 of my comrades died, and 8th brother escaped. I don't understand how you managed to wipe out 9th brother and the others without a scratch. I can't accept it. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. If you can't accept it, find a piece of tofu and kill yourself. You're crazy. Before he finished speaking, Xuelin suddenly attacked. She took a step forward and punched at Chen Guang's abdomen with a gust of wind. You're not done yet? You want to fight just because you don't like it? Chen Guang's pupils shrank. He raised his hand like lightning, and his right hand formed into a claw. He caught Xuelin's fist at a speed that was difficult for the naked eye to follow. Then, he pushed it forward forcefully, and a terrifying force erupted from his shoulder. When he exerted too much force, his right hand even had the power of overclocking vibration. Xuelin took 3 steps back. Eventually, she couldn't stabilize herself and fell to the ground on her butt. Just like that, Xuelin felt the bones in her right hand go completely soft. The terrifying vibration just now swept through her entire right hand like an electric shock, causing her joints to suffer serious injuries. Chen Guang quickly walked past her. Are you convinced now? You're too weak. Don't play martial arts with me. It's not popular here. I'm just a good citizen and a good student. If you really think you're good, I'll introduce you to someone who knows inner force. You can slowly fight with him. The two of them had only exchanged blows for a short while, but Qin Guang had already determined Xue Lin's level. She was indeed much stronger than ordinary people, but that was only limited to the level of ordinary people. Perhaps she was stronger than him before he practiced the Qilin arm. Unfortunately, she had just provoked his Qilin arm. Once this brother's unique skill, overclocked Qilin arm, was used, not to mention the strength, the vibration force could even send him flying. He was worried that he would encounter a martial arts fanatic, so he decisively decided to sell out second Uncle Wen. Inner force? You know inner force? Unexpectedly, Xue Lin, who was sitting on the ground, fiercely pounced forward and grabbed his trouser leg. Hearing the word inner force, her whole person was about to go crazy. Qin Guang forcefully pulled back. Rip, half of the trouser leg was gone. F***ck. That's enough. I don't know inner force. This isn't called inner force. If I knew inner force, I could hit a bull in the air and send you flying. But I really know someone who knows inner force. Probably, he's much stronger than me. Qin Guang said as he evaluated his and second Uncle Wen's combat power in his heart. Not to be boasting, he could probably live for about 5 seconds in the past. Now with the Qilin arm, he could probably live for about 10 seconds. Where is he? I want to be apprenticed. I want to learn. Xue Lin shouted. Aren't you very unconvinced? What do you mean by apprenticing? Qin Guang stared. Xue Lin gritted her teeth. I have heard the legend of inner force since many years ago. I want to learn it even in my dreams. But I can't find anyone who knows inner force at all. How can I dare to challenge someone who knows inner force? It's simply not on the same level. There's no one in the army who knows inner force? Qin Guang asked curiously. Xue Lin shook her head. No, at least I have never seen it. Qin Guang was puzzled. Wen Wen and second Uncle Wen, 2 living people, were always around him. How come there was no one in the army? This was unreasonable. Qin Guang asked again. That's impossible, right? Is it because your status is too low that you can't get in touch with these things? Xue Lin pinched half of Qin Guang's trouser leg, stood up, and shook her head fiercely. My identity. Anyway, there is probably a deeper reason behind it. But I really want to learn. Save it, I still want to learn, but they won't teach me. Qin Guang shrugged. That time in the woods behind the dormitory, second Uncle Wen had rejected her without hesitation. However, Wen Wen seemed to have mentioned that she probably had the intention of teaching him, right? No, she seemed to have said that if he wanted to learn, he had to marry her. Then the psychiatrist said that she had domestic violence tendencies. In addition, why do I have goosebumps when I think of the scene of entering the bridal chamber with that tomboy? Forget it, I don't care if I don't learn inner force, I haven't lived long enough. Qin Guang couldn't be bothered with Xue Lin anymore and fled, leaving behind a young man with a lost expression on his face. Qin Guang didn't dare to return to the ward, but directly drove back to school. When he quietly opened the door, he saw his father stirring something, and there was a vaguely familiar smell coming from the ward. That's right, the long-lost vitality recovery soup, and it was the fortified version with 4 times the power. Mom's condition had stabilized, and Dad's scientific research spirit had finally been reignited. The old man wasn't feeling well, so he left first. This thing must not be drunk. Chapter 326. After all, being targeted by Xue Lin brought some trouble to Qin Guang. But it wasn't too much trouble. Anyway, he refused to admit it. Xue Lin knew that he was talking nonsense, but she couldn't do anything about it. Xue Lin pestered him for 3 or 4 days, but she finally returned without success. He was driven away by Wu Tong, who came to help Qin Guang. Chen Guang was also starting to feel vexed about being pestered like this, so he called Wu Tong over. Watching Shui Lin turn around and leave, Wu Tong turned around and punched Chen Guang. You finally stopped hiding from me. What are you hiding from? Chen Guang smiled hypocritically and scratched his head. Nothing. Bah. I heard from the shadow woman that your shoulder has recovered. So magical. Is there really such a magical medicine in the world? I don't believe it. You must have some secrets, but if you don't tell me, I won't bother to ask you. Wu Tong said as she threw herself on Chen Guang. Most of her body pressed on Chen Guang's shoulder, and at the same time, she intimately rubbed Chen Guang's shoulders with her hands. After thinking through some things, her careless temperament made her movements more bold and unscrupulous. Feeling Wu Tong's ample chest on his shoulder and smelling the fragrance on her body, Chen Guang had no idea what perfume it was. At the same time, he was filled with hatred in his heart. This woman wasn't willing to let him have a good meal and was trying to seduce him on purpose. She must be torturing him on purpose, right? Sister, if you do this again, I will be suffocated. Chen Guang gritted his teeth and said, praying in his heart, can you at least give me some real benefits? Wu Tong put her face in front of him, smiling without saying a word. I know what you are thinking. I will give you 2 words, don't even think about it. At least before you recover, don't even think about it. Well, I knew it would be like this. Don't give me a chance. Otherwise, I will let you taste the resentment of a 10,000-year-old virgin. I will make you hover between life and death, grabbing the railing and tearing the bedsheets. I won't tease you anymore. I still have something to do at the station, so I'll take my leave first. On my way here, the woman in the shadow called me again to complain. She said that I kept avoiding her questions. She had asked her friend to bring a new medicine from America. It had no side effects at all. It was a kind of health supplement. How about this? I won't harm you. As your elder sister, I'll throw caution to the wind to help you. As long as you obediently accept the treatment and take that medicine. I'll personally give you a sweet taste and help you do that with my hands. How about it? But if you don't listen, don't even think about it. Think about it yourself. Wu Tong whispered these words into Chen Guang's ear. Her warm breath caressed his ear, tickling it. Seeing that Chen Guang was rooted to the spot, Wu Tong smiled like a victorious general and left. Looking at her back, Chen Guang's heart was so tangled. Could it be that I can only accept this cruel reality? For the sake of sweetness, should I throw away my integrity or not? Thinking about it carefully, it was nothing more than admitting that he had a weak kidney. Sooner or later, he would find the right opportunity to prove his masculinity. A moment of humiliation was nothing. He gritted his teeth and made a decision. Just as he was thinking about this, his phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was a text from Wu Tong. She added, "Oh yes, I've seen the medicine that Uncle Chen made. It's also very nutritious. We can't let it go to waste." Chen Guang's vision darkened. Tang Ying's imported health supplements and his dad's 4-fold recovery soup. How could he survive with both of them at the same time? The price was a little heavy. But for his sexual happiness, he felt that he could fight for it. Such a strong will collapsed instantly after seeing his dad's super nutritious soup. It was too frightening. Looking at the jar full of all kinds of expensive Chinese medicine, as well as the lamb ribs and mutton that had completely changed color after being soaked in the medicine, he felt that he was about to have a nosebleed just by smelling it. Dad, you're really my biological father. Although I'm a sugar daddy, I'm still young. I don't consume that much energy. Can you not make me these things? The father and son sat on the rooftop. Chen Guang looked at Chen Guoli bitterly. Chen Guoli patted his shoulder. Let's not talk about these useless things. Didn't you go to see Jiang Yage a few days ago? I just saw the news on the internet. It said that Jiang Yage had a bad cold for the past 3 days and didn't step out of the house. Actually, I know that's all a lie. 3 days. A whole 3 days. Son, It's been hard on you. Chen Guoli looked at Chen Guang with tears in his eyes. F***ck, Dad, why are you looking at me like that? This is all king coincidence, okay? I just hid in the hotel for 3 days, okay? Your son is clearly standing right here, so why are you looking at me as if I'm a half-dead person? Lin Fan thought to himself. Look at your face. You've lost so much weight. Chen Guoli was the same as Feng Rong. No matter what state Chen Guang was in, he would always say that he was thin the moment they met. How about this? I know you don't like to eat these things. I'll check on your condition later. If you don't show any signs of weakness, I won't make you these things anymore. But you have to eat this box. Why? You have to give me a reason. Is it so hard to build trust between people? Your son's physique is strong. How can he be drained so easily? Chen Guoli sighed again. Do you know how much this box costs? How much? More than 200,000. Did you see this ginseng? Just this one is worth more than 80,000. There are 6 or 7 other types of Chinese medicine of similar value. If they go to waste like this, won't my heart bleed? Pfft. My biological dad. This is crazy. Completely crazy. Chen Guang was in a bad mood. Chen Guoli sighed. I can't help it. I had to ask a big favor to get this prescription. They said that it would only be effective if we used such a good medicine. They didn't earn any money from me. I asked someone else to find these herbs all over the country. None of them are fake. As a father, how can I not know my son's suffering? I didn't pay a single cent for the money you gave me to pay the court. Your mother's illness doesn't need so much money anyway. Since it's just sitting there, I might as well spend more money to make up for it. It's taken from the people and used for the people. This is also an investment that can help you better serve your customers. But then again, how are you going to explain to Sun Xiaoxuan in your current situation? I think she's not bad. It's just your situation. Sigh. Chen Guang's eyes widened. He looked at his father in a daze. He didn't expect his father to think so much in secret. He was really worried about his son. But then again, I'd rather you don't worry about this. Maybe I can live a little easier. In the end, he didn't have the courage to finish the 200,000 tonic soup on the spot. He just said that he would use it as a midnight snack. After sitting in the ward for another hour, Chen Guang decided to slip away. His heart was hanging by a thread as he held this thing in his hand. If he accidentally knocked it over, the 200,000 would go to waste. Thinking about it made his heart bleed. Chapter 327. At first, he refused to eat it, but in the end, he still couldn't bear to let the 200,000 yuan go to waste. Forget it, my head is very hard, I won't die so easily with some nourishment. Anyway, I told my dad that this will be the last time, I really can't waste it. Since I lied, I have to admit it with tears in my eyes. Squatting by the corner of the corridor, Chen Guang gulped down mouthful after mouthful of the indescribable taste. He didn't even waste the soup. 200,000 yuan. Working for someone? If I'm not a billionaire now, I'll be pissed to death by you. Come to think of it, it's not wrong to follow my dad's train of thought. If Jiang Yage really provided for me. Up until now, the money I've given him is almost 10 million yuan, so spending 200,000 yuan to improve his business is understandable. Anyway, as long as the customer is satisfied, this business can continue, right? Dad, you really know how to run a business. Burping, Chen Guang got up, but just as he turned the corner, he was stunned. A woman was standing there with her hands on her waist, as if she had been waiting for him for a long time. It was Tang Ying. At this time, she was holding a brown glass bottle of unknown origin, looking at him with a devilish smile. Young man, come and try the medicine in sister's hand. Wait a minute, Chen Guang let out a burp. Tang looked at the lunchbox in his hand. Just in time. This medicine is for begging, you can give it to me. With that, she pounced on Chen Guang, pried open his mouth, and stuffed a pill into his mouth. It's not that Chen Guang can't resist, but because his arm just became a Qilin arm a few days ago, he knows he's too strong, and he's afraid of accidentally hurting her. Moreover, Tang holding the bottle in her hand is just a pretense. In fact, she already has a pill in her palm, waiting for the moment when Chen Guang isn't paying attention, so she can stuff it in his mouth. Hey! Feeling something being tossed into his mouth, Chen Guang took a step back and yelled out in pain. Gulp. The pill went down his stomach. Seeing that her plan had succeeded, Tang happily clapped her hands and shoved the bottle into Chen Guang's hands. It's done. You brat, you are also dishonest. You forced me to use force. Why are you so difficult to deal with? Accept your fate. This medicine won't kill you. It has been popular abroad for more than half a year. It's a pure plant extract with no additives and no side effects. It costs a few $100s a bottle. Just treat it as a gift from me. You'll have to buy it yourself next time. Chen Guang put on a long face. Big sis, it's not like that. What was in the box in my hand wasn't a normal bento, it was a recipe that my dad found from who knows where. He said that it was 4 times stronger than the recovery soup last time. 200,000 per jar. I just gritted my teeth and drank such a big pot of soup, and now you're giving me this medicine. I'm a little flustered. Tang was also stunned. Huh? A pot of soup that costs 200,000 renminbi? Chen Guang nodded. One ginseng inside costs 80,000. Oh my god. Even if it's a tonic, it can't be like this. Tang was shocked. Puke. Spit it out for me. Chen Guang shook his head. No. It's 200,000 renminbi. I can't spit it out no matter what. Something bad will happen if you make it up. The tonic I made for you is also very powerful. Tang panicked. Chen Guang still shook his head like a rattle drum. It's okay. My body is made of iron. I can handle it. Tang saw that he had made up his mind, and could only be anxious. She gritted her teeth and said, You can't leave tonight. Why? Go to my dormitory. How can I let you go with your condition? It's better to stay in the hospital. If anything happens, you can be saved in time. My roommate went home today. You can sleep on my bed, and I'll sleep on my roommate's bed. Chen Guang pondered. That's fine. Actually, I'm a little guilty. In the middle of the night, something did happen to Chen Guang, and it was not a small matter. In the middle of the night, he began to feel hot all over. A large pot of nourishing soup made of expensive Chinese medicinal herbs in the stomach, coupled with the nourishing health products from abroad, the taste was really too sour and refreshing. But this heat was different from the heat of a fever. It came from inside his body, and it was reflected in a certain part of his body. At first, Chen Guang gritted his teeth and held on. But later, he began to groan subconsciously. His mind was clear, but a certain part of his body was swollen like it was about to explode. Tang did not sleep well to begin with. When she heard Chen Guang tossing and turning on the bed, and even heard him groaning, she woke up in shock. She turned on the light and rushed to his bedside to ask him if he was feeling uncomfortable. At first, Chen Guang did not want to admit it. But Tang had the heart of a doctor, and almost wanted to call someone to send him to the emergency room at the last minute. Only then did Chen Guang reluctantly admit it. It was not a stomachache, nor was it dizzy. It was just that a certain part of his body was so tenacious that it felt like it was about to explode. Even now, Chen Guang felt strange about what happened next. A man and a woman were sitting together in the doctor's dormitory, watching movies. Chen Guang had found the goods himself. He had 35 tons of dry food in his online drive, so there was no need to ask an experienced driver for help. About 20 minutes later, the first wave was over. At first, Tang Ying was too embarrassed to watch. But later, she made up her mind. If something really happened to Chen Guang today, the health tonic she had stuffed into his mouth might be the straw that broke the camel's back. Of course, she was not someone who was easy to deal with. It was not the first time she and Wu Tong had watched these movies together. In the end, Tang Ying could only put on the attitude of a doctor and pulled a chair over to Chen Guang's side. It was so much so that she even put on a euphemistic excuse to check if there were any signs of edema or congestion. When the guy finally let out a comfortable moan, rolled his eyes, and subconsciously leaned his head on her shoulder, Tang Ying did not even bother to hide. At this time, she had already thought it through. I'm a doctor anyway. It's only right and proper. About 40 minutes later, she was almost gnashing her teeth with hatred for what she had just said. The first release was not a real release at all. It was the beginning of the nightmare for the two of them. This guy's recovery speed was faster than expected. Of course, it could also be that the tonic and imported medicine were too powerful. The same move was fresh the first time, but the second time it became torture. But Chen Guang still relied on the unprecedentedly powerful Kirin arm to stimulate his superhuman potential. Overclocking vibration, easy to use, no explanation needed. However, the third time came. No matter what he did, it was useless. He looked like he was Zhao Ritian. Chen Guang was at his wit's end. He turned his head and looked at Tang Ying. Sister Tang Ying, I'm at my wit's end. Please save me, or I'm going to explode. Tang Ying's heart was filled with regret. If she had known that something was wrong, she would have asked Wu Tong to come here. After all, wasn't she in a hurry to deliver herself to him? Although I'm a doctor, I don't have the courage to be so straightforward. Chapter 328. Tears welled up in Tang Ying's eyes. Somehow, the two of them had ended up like this. Although she didn't hate him, perhaps she still had that little bit of extra emotion after the embarrassing incident at her house. But ever since she found out about Wu Tong's feelings for him, although Tang Ying's desire to help him treat his kidney deficiency hadn't changed, that extra emotion had long been quietly erased. But today, it had suddenly turned out like this. Without any precaution, it had become like this. Tang Ying face-bombed. How could I face Wu Tong? But Chen Guang's condition was indeed very serious, and it had something to do with the medicine she had fed him. She couldn't ignore it. In the end, the doctor's emotions prevailed. Tang Ying gritted her teeth. How about I use my hands to stimulate you? Maybe it'll work? Don't even think about eating me. I won't agree to it. Chen Guang shook his head like a raging pendulum. Impossible, impossible. Sister Tang Ying, you're so much older than me. How could I be interested in you? I didn't even take advantage of you last time when you were so drunk. Tang Ying sucked in a breath of cold air. She should be happy with this guy's words, but why did it sound so wrong? You rascal. What do you mean? Do you think I'm ugly? That I've let you down? That's embarrassing, isn't it? Chen Guang hurriedly explained, No. I'm just afraid that you'll have a knot in your heart. Just treat me as a pitiful patient. Tang Ying rolled her eyes. I've always treated you as a patient. Don't let your imagination run wild. The third time, thankfully, there wasn't a fourth time. Tang Ying felt like her hands were about to break. Chen Guang applied some lotion on his hands, or else he would really feel like he was about to burst into flames. That night, Chen Guang slept very well. Although he had used up a lot of energy last night, he managed to survive the nourishing soup and her unlucky American meatballs. He only felt a little sore in his back, but it wasn't a big deal. Tang Ying was miserable. She tossed and turned on the bed, unable to fall asleep. She rubbed her hands until they were almost rotten. She subconsciously smelled the scent. She was really on the verge of breaking down. He felt that he had been tricked by this father and son duo. You guys made use of my sympathy and put on a good show for me. His time was short. This is called kidney deficiency. If he was weak, then there was no one in the world who wasn't. An entire half an hour passed, half an hour. My arms are breaking from exhaustion. I won't even be able to hold my chopsticks properly tomorrow. Early the next morning, Tang Ying glared at Qin Guang with a red face and dark eyes. Swear to God that you won't tell anyone about this. Heaven knows, earth knows, you know, I know. Wu Tong can't tell either. Qin Guang stretched out 2 fingers and pointed to the sky. I swear. I will definitely not tell anyone about this. If I go against this, may I be struck by lightning and not. Tang Ying covered his mouth and said, all right, don't say things like, I'll die a horrible death. If you really have a bad tongue, let it slip, I'll just lose face. God is watching over me, so there's no need to swear such a heavy oath over such a small matter. Now you should believe that I don't have kidney deficiency, right? Qin Guang chuckled and moved his face closer to Tang Ying. Looking at the usually dignified doctor blushing shyly, he couldn't help but feel indescribably pleased. Tang Ying rolled her eyes at him. All right, I'll be damned if I believe you. Get lost. I don't want to see you. Keep this medicine for yourself and take it in a few days. It's a few $100, don't waste it. Just treat it as a tonic. Get lost. Qin Guang shrank his neck and ran away. Although last night's incident was a scam, he couldn't deny that he felt a little sour and refreshed. Of course, the happiest thing was that he could finally regain his manhood in front of Tang Ying, a doctor who always thought that he had kidney deficiency. Let's see if you still dare to call me weak in the future. However, there was something else that slightly troubled him. He really couldn't tell Wu Tong about it. He wasn't stupid. Returning to the dormitory alone, he sat in the empty room and played a few rounds of Dota. Then, he stood by the window and looked around. The huge dormitory was empty. Originally, there were people coming and going in the enclosed courtyard, but now, there were only a few sparrows playing in the scorching summer heat. Sighing, Qin Guang sat back in front of the chair and yelled, I'm so bored. He could actually hear the echo. Without anyone around him, it was as if the whole world had become empty. Suddenly, it was summer vacation, all of his classmates had left, and his mom wouldn't be discharged for another 10 days or so. These days, Azure hadn't done anything at all. After all, he had just dealt with the super-powerful Punishment Realm and the Qilin Arm Realm, and even the Heavenly Holy Grail had to take a break. The makeup exam would only start next semester, so it wasn't time for him to study at all. He had 180 million in his pocket, and he didn't have the fighting spirit to go online. Azure had set her eyes on this 180 million, and it could go down the drain at any time, but this unreasonable woman wouldn't let him do anything. Thus, Qin Guang had lost interest in learning how to do business. In any case, even if he mastered it, he wouldn't be able to use it. All of a sudden, it felt like he was so bored that his balls were aching. After playing several rounds in a row, he didn't meet Jiang Luhua again, and he crushed his opponents without any suspense. The after effects seemed to be gradually alleviating, but it was still a little strenuous, and after a long time, he still felt nauseous. Now, he couldn't play Dota anymore, and he was completely at a loss. Who would have thought that I, the Grand Lord Guang, would also have such a day when I don't even have someone to talk to? What should I do to pass the time? Unconsciously, Qin Guang opened his Weibo on the computer, and before he knew it, he had gained hundreds of followers and hundreds of replies. It had been almost 5 months since he last updated his Weibo. Obviously, he didn't have the potential to become an internet celebrity. He had also received a lot of private messages, most of which weren't pleasant to listen to. Most of them were from Jiang Yage's diehard fans, but of course, there were also haters pretending to be fans. A disdainful sneer appeared on Qin Guang's lips. You bunch of pitiful bugs, this elder brother and your goddess are very familiar with each other, okay? How could a big shot like this elder brother be angered by the private messages and replies of weak scum like you? Don't King make a fuss, okay? 10 minutes later, he silently pressed the button to close the replies, delete his most recent Weibo post, and set his private messages to reject strangers. Fortunately, Lord Guang didn't have heart disease, otherwise he would have been angered to death. What King dog? Could he still happily use Weibo? No matter how thick-skinned this elder brother was, he wouldn't be able to withstand these people's endless abuse. Thanks to the hundreds of new replies and private messages, Chen Guang did a good job of revising his Chinese language and felt the profoundness of Chinese literature. In the private messages, he saw a message from Jiang Yage. It was probably because she finally realized that she had replied to Chen Guang's message. It was supposed to be a tease between the two of them, but instead, it caused some of her irrational and crazy fans to keep scolding Chen Guang. I'm sorry, I was clearly joking with you. I didn't expect those people to be like this. I'm also very troubled. But it seems like you don't use Weibo much, so you might not have seen it. If you see it, you can send me a WeChat message to scold me. I love you. Chen Guang clutched his chest again. He was disgusted by Jiang Yage's words and felt a little suffocated. He recalled his experience at Disneyland with these two people again. He couldn't bear to look back on the past, leaving him with scars all over his body. It really had been a long time since he opened WeChat. He opened it to see what these two people were talking about. Chen Guang felt that a person like him was destined to not have many friends. He didn't even chat on WeChat, so how could he be close to his sister? Chapter 329. When he opened it, it was indeed all useless nonsense. Jiang Yage was still using the same method, adding some useless but self-deprecating jokes to her selfies. This woman's Photoshop skills were getting better and better, and her photography skills were also improving. In addition to her selfies, there were also many photos of her traveling around the world. The photos were beautiful, and they were even post-processed. Even though Chen Guang was not interested in her photos, he still felt that the landscape photos she took were quite beautiful. He was secretly envious of her. He did not have the talent to be a photographer, but this woman almost made a name for herself. In the past, he used to use Lin Jingwei's DSLR for a while. Later, he felt that the composition, lighting, lenses, and all kinds of special effects had to be added in order to take beautiful photos. It was too troublesome, and he broke down. Other people had sent dozens of photos, and it seemed that it was a little too much not to reply. Chen Guang replied casually, "The scale is too small, I'm not even interested in replying. My phone's memory card is very precious, please only send large-scale photos." In addition, Jin Shiriyue said something that made him a little more concerned. Deng Xiaojiang, The Big Beard's Tears for a Nation, was finally going to be released. Filming a movie was also quite troublesome. From filming to post-production, to publicity, to the actual release, there were a lot of things waiting for people to do. When Chen Guang sneaked into the crew to shoot that scene, they had actually already shot the second half of the scene. At the same time, the post-production had been following up. Coupled with his relationship with Big Beard Deng, as well as the accurate grasp of the Bureau's censorship policy, this rather heavy historical blockbuster could be released in the summer. Originally, Chen Guang did not like to go to the movies. After all, as an old bachelor, it was easy to get hurt in that kind of place. But this time, he decided to go, and he had to watch the first scene. The reason was very simple, he was going to appear on screen. It was rare to have a few opportunities to act cool in life. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? When the time came, if he was accidentally recognized by the beautiful women coming out of the cinema, they would point at him and scream, "Look! This was the super handsome deputy general." Then, he shook his head. "Yes, you didn't see wrongly. The silver-armored deputy general whose acting skills were off the charts and who was domineering and cool was me." Then, he would be able to hold a girl in one arm and do some shameful things in a nearby hotel. Just thinking about it made him look forward to it. It was a pity that Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage would be attending the premiere in Beijing. The two of them even invited him in private, saying that they had prepared a VIP box ticket for him. In fact, he would be sitting behind the two women. Chen Guang was a little tempted, but he decided against it. It was too unnecessary to fly from the 5 capitals to the Yenjing. He had sold the Patek Philippe that the two of them had given him for money. Even now, he had a knot in his heart and felt that he had let them down. Previously, he was so poor that he had no choice but to sell it. He also needed money to save his life, so he didn't think too much about it. Now that he had become someone who did not lack money, when he thought about this matter, he felt a little ashamed to raise his head. What if the two of them excitedly asked how the watch felt and whether the time was accurate? How should he answer? Did he sell it? Or should he buy it back? Forget it, he had already sold it to them. They helped him a lot because of Lin Jingwei. How could he have the face to buy it back? Therefore, in fact, Chen Guang's thoughts about Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue were to avoid them for the time being. Although it was good to be a celebrity, if he had too much contact with them, his life might be ruined by the paparazzi. He didn't want to be famous for such a meaningless thing. Chen Guang's WeChat reply to Jin Shiyue was much gentler. He told her not to just focus on work and to pay more attention to rest. After scrolling through Weibo and replying to WeChat, he began to feel bored again. Leaning against the back of the chair, Chen Guang's mind wandered. What should I do next? Right, since I have nothing to do anyway, why don't I think about how to make a second statue in the World in the Cup? After some careful calculations, he had experienced the World in the Cup 6 times. On average, 3 times a month and once every 10 days. The first World in the Cup was when he learned English in the Sea of Time. There was no hope of making the Sea of Time perfect and erecting a statue. The second Dota Hell training seemed to be something he could think about. The Racing God training ground was already perfect. Sharpening pencils seemed to be something he could do. Let's not talk about the unlucky incident of the punishment realm. The world of Kirin arms? Alright, that was even more unlucky. Brother Ming was the best at sharpening brass fireworks in the world. Others would only think of him as an idiot. When the time came, would the statue be made of brass fireworks or my pair of Kirin arms? Just thinking about it made him feel hopeless. So, it seemed like he could focus on Dota and sharpening pencils. He felt like he could do both. Anyway, he didn't lack money now. It wouldn't be too much for him to raise a few million to set up a club and form a team. Lioli wouldn't fight him to the death, right? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this idea was feasible. Previously, he might not have had much hope when he could only last 2 matches, but now he could probably last up to 4. Even if he participated in the International Invitational Tournament and reached the finals, he could at most play a set of best-of-5 matches. When that time came, he could go on a winning streak and at most play 5 matches in the final set of best-of-5 matches. It wasn't impossible. But the teammate couldn't be too strong. He had to give people the impression that he was a god with 4 legs. Otherwise, he wouldn't be recognized as the best in the world. Dota and LOL were both team games. He had to make the others have a clear gap with him. Otherwise, victory would only be attributed to the team. That's right. It was decided just like that. But forming a team wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. He had to think of a way to gather a group of people. How about this? He would first try to fight his way to the top of the Chinese server's ladder. Then, he would find a few good players in the wild or old retired players. They would be around the level of 2nd or 3rd tier players. When that time came, he would have the money and the people. He would be able to clinch an international championship in one go. He didn't have to sit firmly on the throne of the strongest forever. As long as he was recognized by the world at that moment, he would be able to trigger the conditions for completing the World in a Cup. That wasn't right. Professional competitions were very professional now. If he wanted to register, he would have to register first. Forget it. He wouldn't form a new team. He would just purchase a second-tier or third-tier noob team and help him register his name as a substitute. Then, he would kick the players who played well and keep the noobs. No, it had to be the kind of noobs who were famous enough among the professional players. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to highlight his strength. Those who weren't noobs enough or weren't famous enough, he would kick them all. It didn't matter if they were disbanded after the competition. He just wanted to shine for a while. Then, he would start looking for an unlucky team to purchase from now on. Chapter 330. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that this matter was troublesome. Although he played this game, he was not a member of the esports circle. He was just a typical fan, so he did not know much about these things. Forget it, I'll let this matter hang in my mind for now. As for now, Chen Guang decided that he wanted to be an internet celebrity. That's right, it would be much easier to prove that he was the best sharpener in the world. Anyway, he would not have any competitors. He would first record a pencil sharpening video and upload it online to at least accumulate some popularity. Then, he would find a chance to contact the Guinness World Records. But then again, contacting Guinness was also a troublesome matter. He suddenly felt that he needed a capable person to help him take care of these things. As the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, he could not waste his limited life on these chores, right? He could not help but think of Lu Fei. When he was in Xiangjiang, Lu Fei took care of everything. He lived a very relaxed and happy life. He did not need to care about anything else and only needed to race. With someone to help him take care of all these chores, he could focus on his own strengths. How comfortable was that? He had not understood the mystery before, but now he knew that he was lacking people. Now that he was considered half a nouveau riche, he needed a useful accessory. Although Lu Fei was a talent, with her family's status, it was already very kind of her to help him once. How could he trouble her again? Besides, she had helped him earn this bit of wealth. In her eyes, it was nothing. She should be the one hiring him. Forget it, it was really difficult to find a trustworthy and outstanding person who could take care of all aspects. This matter was also troublesome. He would put it aside for now. Old man should first change his Weibo name to Almighty Superman and become an internet celebrity first. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. Before officially starting filming, Chen Guang sent a WeChat message to Jin Jiang and Lu Fei, telling them that he would be updating a video on his Weibo later and asking them to help repost it. Anyway, he would not pay any advertising fees. From now on, he would embark on the path of being an internet celebrity. With Jin Jiang and Lu Fei's reposting, he would be going against the heavens. Anyway, he wasn't short of money. If necessary, he could buy a few million zombie fans and get them to post millions of fake comments. Then, all the other big verses would have to kneel down in a matter of minutes. In that case, he would first delete anything that might expose his personal information on Weibo, lest he was exposed. It was enough to be a quiet, handsome man on the internet. There was no need to ruin his real life. After he was done, Chen Guang decisively took out the V-shaped Special Agent Team flexible mask that he had used quite well in Xiangjiang from the wardrobe and put it on. Get to work. No, wait, let's go to the snack bar on the pedestrian street and clean out their pencils first. Half an hour later, he uploaded a video with extremely low filming skills, but the content was enough to blind countless people. He named it the best pencil sharpener in history. In this 8-minute video, he demonstrated his terrifying pencil sharpening skills. Peeling a rose in 5 seconds was a beginner's skill. Carving out a peony in 3 seconds could barely be considered a pass. The real supreme realm was to carve out 10 completely different well-known statues in 2 seconds. The Statue of Liberty, the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro, Egypt's Sphinx, Easter Island's Moa, David, the Olmec's Big Head, Motherland Calling, the Thinker, the Little Danish Mermaid, and the little boy who peed everywhere. That's right, in 1 second, 10 statues, lifelike, perfect original miniature wood carvings. Chen Guang couldn't have done it in the past. Thanks to the Kirin arm, after familiarizing himself with the ultra-high frequency vibration, he integrated it into his pencil sharpening skills, which made his skills sublimate again. At the end of the video, he took a close-up shot of each statue, which would definitely shock countless people. Once the video was sent out, he didn't care anymore. Anyway, the two girls wouldn't not give him face. After he was done with this, he finally plucked up the courage to pick up physical chemistry and read it for more than half an hour. Thanks to Sun Xiaoxuan's courseware, otherwise, this course would really kill him. It was really too hard to learn, too depressing. Finally, he finished reading a big chapter. Even with the help of the courseware, he was still dizzy. Chen Guang threw the book away and decided to read online literature to recover some of his blood. Oh, the poor author who chased after him some time ago finally made it to the shelves. Poor, too poor. 18,000 readers liked it, and the average subscription was only about 700, which meant that there were about 17,300 people reading pirated versions. This poor guy howled every day that he had to support his family and couldn't go on living. Young man, you really think too much of human nature. What's the use of howling about being poor? Who would care about you? In this day and age, what people think about is free reading. Isn't it stupid not to read? Everyone knows that authors are robots. They don't need to eat to write a book, especially a poor author like you. Not only are you a robot, but you're also a robot dog. You don't need to be fed. If you want to live, you have to honestly write 10,000 words a day. Do you think that insisting on writing 10,000 words a day will move them? How many people do you think will understand how tiring it is to write all day? Stop howling here. You're disturbing my free meal mood. If you're not happy, come and scold me in your book review section. I'm giving you face by reading your book, okay? I'm giving you face. Can you use it to soak in soup and eat steamed buns? You even dare to collect money, you're such a drug dealer. Chen Guang scanned the book review section and found out that this poor fellow actually dared to do something like defending against DB. He decisively scolded him. Serves him right. Other people in the book review section said that 17,000 people were worried that you would be a eunuch. They were waiting for you to finish writing before coming back to fix it. You defending against DB is ruining our mood and hurting our faces. These scums, in the end, Chen Guang couldn't help but curse in his heart. When the old man was at his poorest, he still insisted on supporting the original book, okay? $10 a month was nothing. This poor fellow was acting again, saying that he was still writing at 5 or 6 in the morning. Whether you believe it or not, I don't believe it. I don't believe that you have cervical spondylosis, insomnia, obsessive-compulsive disorder, or depression. But, I don't lack money. Therefore, Chen Guang happily slapped out the Alliance Leader title. He didn't give the poor fellow, who boasted that he had the world's strongest fancy bootlicking skills, any chance to get close to him. He closed the book review section and didn't join his fan group. He hid his achievements and fame, and was the proudest of pretending to be pretentious. Then, he started reading happily. To be honest, although this silly guy was a bit of a loser, he was quite happy to read. He thought that he would just muddle through the day. Around 5:00 in the afternoon, he suddenly received a call from Zhu Jifa. That's right, it was President Zhu who lent his poor Rena car to Chen Guang and spent 20,000 yuan to repair it. He brought his little beautiful secretary to Wujing and was now rushing to the city hospital. He planned to visit Chen Guang's mother first and ask him to eat together later. Chen Guang hadn't seen his old friend for a long time. Thank God, at least someone came to save his boring life. Therefore, he quickly drove to the city. Chen Guang also planned to take the opportunity to let Zhu Jifa's little beautiful secretary drive the Rena back to his hometown. Now that he wasn't lacking money, he shouldn't treat himself badly. To improve his life, he should start by changing cars. At this time, Chen Guang still didn't know that after Jiang Yage and Jin Shuriwei reposted his Weibo, the internet was in an uproar. Chapter 331. Jin Shirue and Jiang Yage each had tens of millions of Weibo fans, and each Weibo post had at least tens of thousands of reposts and tens of thousands of replies. But although the two women usually ate and lived together, their spontaneous Weibo content was always different. Only this time, the two of them reposted the same video almost at the same time, and each sent an irreconcilable accompanying text, which was instantly pushed to countless fans' Weibo. Jin Shirue, this is my idol. I've never seen anyone sharpening a pencil like this. Everyone, quickly go and take a look. Please repost, please spread. Jiang Yage, at first, when he asked me to repost this Weibo post, I refused until I watched the video first. Just now, my assistant asked me why I was kneeling on the ground playing with my phone, and now she is kneeling beside me. Wait, why is Sister Shirue kneeling out of the room? The two different accompanying texts, coupled with Chen Guang's dazzling pencil sharpening skills, the combination of the two instantly produced a chemical reaction, and the final result was an instant explosion. But there was something strange. Why was there nothing under this all-around Superman's Weibo? There was no verification, and even the replies were closed. The entire Weibo only had this video, like a zombie account that was temporarily registered. But Jin Shirue and Jiang Yage both paid attention to this zombie account at the same time. Who was this mysterious guy? After the instant explosion, more and more possibilities were speculated in the hearts of the people, causing Chen Guang's video to sweep the internet in an extremely short period of time. More people spontaneously joined the discussion. At first, it was because of the attention attracted by Jin Shirue and Jiang Yage's repost, but gradually, people were divided into two factions. One faction thought that it was impossible, and it was definitely special effects, while the other faction thought that the video was completely real, and this all-around Superman guy could really do it. Soon, the technical party among the folk experts jumped out, and from a professional point of view, they analyzed Chen Guang's video frame by frame, verifying the second faction's view. The video was completely real. Even if it looked like a movie, it was real. The technical party came to a conclusion, but it didn't stop the debate. More people jumped out, accusing the technical party of boasting that they were folk experts, but in fact, they were paid 50 cents. This infuriated the technocrats, and another wave of debate broke out. But no matter what, if there was a debate, there would be a topic, and if there was a topic, there would naturally be popularity. This time, it was even more incredible. More and more people spontaneously joined the repost party and became free water users. At first, these topics stayed under Jin Zhang's Weibo, but gradually, other big accounts joined in the ranks of reposting and commenting on the video. Perhaps they were doing this for the sake of the two young big shots on their left and right hands, or perhaps Chen Guang's video really got them excited. These internet celebrities also had their own fans. Under these people's Weibo posts, there were countless comments and reposts. There were also discussions among friends on Weibo, which was not a big V, but a small circle. As a result, Chen Guang's video went viral. It really went viral. Like a wildfire, it swept through the entire Weibo circle in just over 2 hours. Life was so unpredictable. How could Chen Guang have thought that his sudden idea would cause such a sensation on the internet? The birth of an internet celebrity had a lot of coincidences in it. Jin Zhang's repost was the trigger, and the content of the video was the skeleton that supported it to become popular. The coincidences and accidents in the instant that it became popular became its wings. Perhaps it was because his V-shaped special agent mask added a lot of mystery to the video, and the complete closure of the comments made him seem even more unique. Or perhaps it was because of the debate between the technical party and the skeptic party that made the video even more popular. It was probably very difficult to find a reason. In short, his video went viral. It completely went viral in just over 2 hours. And it was obvious that it would continue to go viral. Because the topic of the strongest pencil sharpener in history directly broke into Weibo's hot search list at lightning speed, and began to spontaneously appear in front of more people. It could be foreseen that in the next 2 days, unless another hot topic that was enough to attract everyone's attention popped up. No one could stop this video from being constantly reposted and spread. From the time Chen Guang uploaded the video to the time he arrived at Wujing City Hospital, the first video he uploaded under the name Almighty Superman went from being unknown to being famous all over the country. His Weibo fans also shot up from the initial 1,000 or so like a rocket. 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. When he arrived outside his mother's ward, the number of Almighty Superman's fans had forcibly exceeded 500,000, and it was still rising. At this level, he could really achieve the idea that he had by chance but had not been able to put into practice. 500,000 followers, and all of them were living people. He could indeed accept advertisements. This was something that many operating accounts might not be able to do even if they worked for half a year. But he only used 2 hours, and he didn't even realize it. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage were also quite busy. After helping Chen Guang forward the video, they went to work. Otherwise, they would have called Chen Guang. When he arrived at the ward, Zhu Jifa had already chatted with Chen Guoli and Feng Rong for about 10 minutes. Chen Guoli's work at Old Zhou's hot pot restaurant in the county had been taken over by Zhu Jifa's retired father. The two families were old friends. When Zhu Jifa's family's printing factory was in trouble in the early years, the Chen family had helped a lot. Zhu Jifa was basically equivalent to the nephew of Chen Guoli and his parents. Seeing that Chen Guang had come, Zhu Jifa put on the attitude of a big brother. Don't you know that you should spend more time with Uncle Chen and Aunt Feng? Why are you still in school when the school is on holiday? Chen Guang rolled his eyes. He thought to himself, what do you know? I've been working like a dog recently. I only have a little rest these 2 days, okay? Chen Guoli patted Zhu Jifa. Xiao Fa, don't scold Xiao Guang. He's been worrying so much about us that his body is about to collapse. You two brothers, when you get back, save whatever nourishing things you can for him. Wait, Dad, what you said doesn't sound right to me. Chen Guang was too lazy to respond to Zhu Jifa. This bastard was always acting like a big brother just because he was 3 years older than him. Boss Zhu, you're so busy every day. Why did you come to the 5 capital? Can you not call me Boss Zhu? Zhu Jifa's balls were hurting. He turned to the little beautiful secretary beside him and said, Hu Ling, I've told you many times not to call me Boss Zhu. Now this guy has something on you, right? The two brothers hadn't seen each other for a long time, and it was quite lively as they bantered with each other. Chapter 332. When it was time to eat, he originally planned to ask Chen Guoli to go out to eat together. However, the old man said that he could not leave this place, so he did not want to go with the youngsters and let them make their own arrangements. By the way, what are you doing here this time? How much does it cost to get the whole car? It's quite comfortable to sit here. Chen Guang sat in the passenger seat of Zhu Jifa's BMW 525 and asked casually. Zhu Jifa was not very familiar with the road conditions in Wujing. He was very nervous when he drove, afraid that he would violate the rules. He was even more afraid that the roads in Wujing were dominated by taxis. If he were to slip and fall, it would be very distressing. He was not in the mood to explain to Chen Guang at all. He stared straight ahead. Don't ask about adult matters. Don't disturb me while I'm driving. Chen Guang was instantly enraged. F***ck. What do you mean adult matters? Although I'm a university student who has not graduated, I already have a net worth of 200 million. If you piss me off, I'll buy your factory and let you watch the gate. Perhaps he realized that his words might be too aggressive, so Zhu Jifa added, by the way, I haven't asked Auntie Feng how much this surgery will cost. I heard that a kidney transplant will cost about 5 to 600,000, right? I really couldn't help much before. The factory needs to support people, and there isn't much cash available. Fortunately, your family found a way to borrow money, but it's not good to always owe others. After I settle this matter, in less than half a year, I'll help you repay the money first. You're going to graduate soon, so don't go to the sports car. Study hard, and don't fail too many subjects. If you fail too many subjects, you won't even be able to get your graduation certificate. He said such a long paragraph in one breath. He was so nervous that cold sweat was coming out of his temples. He was really focused while driving. Chen Guang's anger immediately dissipated. He did not expect Zhu Jifa to pay for the transplant. He knew his difficulties. Don't be fooled by the fact that he was tinkering with a printing factory. In fact, it was not easy to run a business these days. There were so many people, big and small, and the profits of the printing industry were already very low. A large factory could only move a few tens of thousands of working capital. However, the first thing he wanted to do now was to help him pay off the debt of 500,000 or 600,000 yuan after he earned the money. Chen Guang was touched. Everyone knew that if it was a loan of 500,000 or 600,000 yuan, it would take an ordinary family a year or two to repay it. This trader's son was a good person, but his mouth was cheap. Chen Guang knew that Zhu Jifa had always been like this, but he couldn't stand his big brother attitude. Don't talk so much. Look at how nervous you are. Why don't you move aside and let me drive? The racing god of this generation, the invincible man that everyone looks up to, is personally driving for you. Are you honored? Zhu Jifa ignored Chen Guang. Shut up. It's not enough that you drove my Rena to that state, and now you want to harm my BMW 5? Don't even think about it. I'll King kill you if I die. It's going to cost more than 400,000 yuan. I bought this car with a mortgage loan to keep up appearances. So far, I have 0 failures. Don't let me be the first. All right. Just focus on driving. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. He was on the verge of collapsing from Su Tao's actions. The three of them drove around for about 10 minutes. Zhu Jifa first parked the car in the parking lot of the chain hotel where he stayed, then invited them to sit in the Sichuan restaurant next door. Seeing that he wasn't interested in talking about why he came to Wujing, Chen Guang didn't ask any more. He was afraid that this trader would talk about adult matters again. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to control his restless arm and give him a slap in the face. Chen Guang's attention shifted to the other side. When they were waiting for the dishes to be served, Hu Ling went to the toilet. She pulled Zhu Jifa's shoulder and smiled wickedly. The two of you have an affair. Don't talk nonsense. Zhu Jifa shook his head violently. When you parked the car at the hotel just now, Hu Ling said that she went upstairs to put her bag. The room card was taken out of your pocket and given to her. The two of you only got one room. Chen Guang continued to smile wickedly. Zhu Jifa gasped and started to panic. CK. Keep this matter to yourself. If Lu Xiaohong finds out, I'm dead meat. Chen Guang looked at his panicking face and felt pity for him. You're quite bold. You have Lu Xiaohong at home, and you still dare to keep a little secretary by your side. Aren't you afraid that something will happen? Zhu Jifa sighed. Of course I'm afraid. That's why I asked Hu Ling to wait on the road in the name of a business trip 2 days earlier. I only picked her up today. Are you tired of living? Chen Guang asked. Zhu Jifa nodded, then shook his head. Isn't it because I'm tired of living that I need someone to share my burden? Otherwise, I'm going to suffer from depression. Chen Guang understood his feelings. Lu Xiaohong was famous for being unreasonable. She had a bad temper and was a standard shrew. She looked rough and unlikable, but her father was the county's industry and commerce bureau chief. He just had to fall in love with Zhu Jifa, who was 3 years younger than him. Even though the poor CEO Zhu was disgusted, he still pinched his nose and married her a year ago. He thought that he could use her family's connections to get some benefits. Never did he expect that the one who married him would be a tigress. Zhu Jifa's life had been tough for the past year. He needed a gentle and considerate girl to barely save his collapsing life. Alright, it's good that you know about this. If Lu Xiaohong comes to ask you about it, help me lay the groundwork. As Zhu Jifa spoke, he took out his wallet and shook out a stack of red notes. It looked to be about 2,000 to 3,000 yuan. He stuffed it into Chen Guang's hands. Here, take the hush money. Chen Guang slapped the money back. If it was him in the past, he would have accepted it without a second thought. But now, he really couldn't afford to lose face like this. He thought to himself that he might as well find an opportunity to show off his wealth in front of this guy. That way, this guy wouldn't think of him as a pauper. He would let this guy understand that a scholar who has been away for 3 days should be looked at in a new light. As the two of them were pushing and shoving each other, Hu Ling came back. What are you two doing? The two of them finally stopped. Zhu Jifa hurriedly explained, nothing. Hu Ling had been with Zhu Jifa for a long time. When she saw his expression, how could she not understand what was going on? She blushed and pinched Zhu Jifa's hand under the table. Chen Guang looked at the two of them being so lovey-dovey. How dare they show off their affection in front of me? I can call a girl to beat the crap out of you. Fortunately, the dishes on the table were gradually served. Zhu Jifa was the first to pick up his chopsticks. Let's eat. Go back to school early after you're done eating. I have a tough battle to fight tomorrow. Chen Guang picked up some food with his chopsticks. Even though this restaurant did not look grand, the food was quite authentic. Oh right, Hu Ling, do you know how to drive? Hu Ling was puzzled. Yes, why? Chen Guang was amused. Alright then. You can drive the Rena back this time. I don't need it. Chapter 333. Zhu Jifa threw away his chopsticks and asked, although I told you to stop driving, you're not used to not having a car, right? Just take it and drive, it's not a problem. Chen Guang chuckled, no, I'm going to buy my own car. The Rena doesn't feel good when it's running, and it's terrible when it accelerates. Screw you, why are you complaining when you can drive it? I told you to come back and get a Maidang, but you said you didn't want it. Zhu Jifa's phone rang as he was speaking. I'm going to take this call. In less than 2 minutes, he walked back with a bitter face, looking at the table full of dishes that had just been served regretfully. What's wrong? Chen Guang saw that his expression was not right. Zhu Jifa sighed, the battle is ahead of schedule. Forget it, let's go somewhere else. The table full of dishes had not been touched. Everything happened so suddenly, so the three of them could only look at it regretfully before they left. It was a feast for their eyes. Because of that phone call, Zhu Jifa's mood suddenly became very complicated. Even when he was driving, he was a little distracted. If it wasn't for Chen Guang pulling the handbrake for him, this guy would have rear-ended someone. Left with no other choice, Chen Guang forcefully chased Zhu Jifa out of the driver's seat and took over the driver's seat. Chen Guang repeatedly expressed that he had been in the 5 capitals for half a year, and he's already an experienced driver. Only then did Zhu Jifa reluctantly give up his seat. However, as soon as he sat in the front passenger seat, his entire person was in the zone. His eyebrows were furrowed like a wet towel. What's making you so worried? Tell me, and see if I can help you think of a way. Chen Guang asked him, but he didn't answer. Hu Linggang called another expensive restaurant in Wujing City's hailing pavilion to change the time of a private room, and then mentioned it to Chen Guang. She said, I originally had an appointment with someone at hailing pavilion to discuss something tomorrow, but they said they had another appointment tomorrow, and asked me to change it to today. Originally, I planned to find out what that person likes and dislikes tomorrow morning, but now that I've been caught unprepared, Brother Fa is worried about whether or not we can settle the matter. Zhu Jifa, who was in front, finally said, it's okay. I don't have time to ask about other people's preferences. At most, I'll just give them money. Everyone likes money. Don't worry about Qinguang later. Just focus on eating. You're going to graduate soon, so you should learn how to do business. Today is just the right time for you to see how I talk business. Qinguang nodded and thought to himself, I don't know anything about business now, but I already have 200 million in my pocket, okay? It was about 4 or 5 kilometers from the hotel chain to the hailing pavilion, but there was a bit of a traffic jam. The three of them drove for about 40 minutes before they arrived. Originally, Zhu Jifa had booked a private room for tomorrow. Now that it was changed to today, there was almost no space left. He had no choice but to add another 5,000 yuan to the private room fee. In the end, the three of them sat in the private room for an hour. It was almost 8 o'clock, and their stomachs were growling with hunger. Only then did the person they had been waiting for finally arrive, saying that he had already arrived downstairs. The wait was too boring, so Qinguang had to force Zhu Jifa to talk about it. Only then did he know why he had come to the 5 capital painting. Recently, the business of his family's printing factory had been quite good. They had received a lot of orders, and the current production line was too busy. Therefore, Zhu Jifa planned to create a production line with new technology. It could also be considered as making the business bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, if he wanted to achieve everything in one step, the production line with new technology that he had his eyes on was not cheap. He had to prepare at least tens of millions of yuan in total. It was not enough to rely on the circulating funds of the factory alone, so he thought of taking a loan. The last time he had asked someone to send Qinguang's parents to the 5 capital painting, he had actually gone there in advance to get a feel of the situation. After all, he knew that now that the country was collecting loans, it was not as easy for private enterprises to get loans as it used to be. Last week, he had finally found the way to Dongchong Commercial Bank through an acquaintance. As the boss of the enterprise, he had hurriedly rushed over, planning to invite the president of the branch to have a meal together. At the dinner table, he would state the situation that needed to be shown, give the benefits that needed to be given, and settle the matter while he was at it. He had originally planned to make preparations with the acquaintance that he wanted to build a relationship with the next day, catered to their preferences, and prepared some valuable and high-class gifts. In the end, he did not expect the other party to do as he pleased, suddenly changing the date to today. At this time, the acquaintance could not come, and he had not prepared anything, so Zhu Jifa could only bite the bullet and do it himself. He did not know what this person had been doing before. This last-minute change of time, and he himself had arrived late, made Zhu Jifa, Qinguang, and the other two extremely hungry. Qinguang's face was sullen. He had not even entered the business world, and he had already suffered in the business world with Zhu Jifa. Qinguang really could not hold it in. Isn't this person too unreasonable? It's fine if he changed the time, but he only arrived now. What did he say just now? 3 cars came. A dish in this lousy place would cost at least a few hundred. 3 cars for a dozen people, a meal would cost at least 10 to 20,000, and it would be even worse if they drank some wine. Does he think you're a sucker? Zhu Jifa sighed. Qinguang, you've seen it, haven't you? Business is not easy, it's really not easy. Just like today, since he changed the time at the last minute, it means that he is actually not sincere. But I can only hope that he will make one last attempt, don't you think so? Later on, you better restrain yourself and don't care about anything else. Just keep your head down and eat your food. Don't spoil my plans. Qinguang saw his nervous look. Although he did not take it seriously, he did not directly refute him. Seeing that he was very concerned about this matter, he was not in a hurry to show off his money. At the same time, he could also learn how to deal with people in this so-called business world. At this moment, Zhu Jifa's phone rang. The other party said that they had already arrived at the entrance of Hailing Pavilion and asked him to go down and pick them up. Following that, Qinguang finally saw the true difficulty of doing business. Zhu Jifa and Hu Ling eagerly went out to pick them up. He sat down obediently and waited for the food to be served. Just as Zhu Jifa said, Chen Guang only planned to eat this meal with his stomach and ears. He only wanted to listen and eat, and did not care about anything else. In the end, Hu Ling came in with a red face. The atmosphere was a little off. Chen Guang wanted to ask what was wrong, but a group of people followed behind a fat man came in. Before the words left his mouth, he swallowed them first. Zhu Jifa was the last one. He looked like he was forcing a smile. There was some anger between his eyebrows, but he suppressed it. When the people in front of him turned around and greeted him, his face instantly turned into a humble and respectful smile. After entering the door and sitting down, Zhu Jifa first mentioned that Chen Guang was his younger brother. The fat man was President Ma of Dongcheng Commercial Bank's Chaosian County branch. President Ma was not interested in Chen Guang at all. He did not even greet Chen Guang. He only waved his hand and signaled the 10 people behind him to sit down. Then he sat down on the main seat. Zhu Jifa and Hu Ling actually rushed to Chen Guang's side. Chen Guang felt that the atmosphere was not right. Chapter 334. All of a sudden, there were so many people, and they seemed to be President Ma's subordinates. Zhu Jifa didn't even have the chance to open his mouth on the table. Logically speaking, if he really wanted to talk, it wasn't impossible with so many people. President Ma just needed to give a signal, and Zhu Jifa would immediately follow him outside to talk. However, after the dishes were served, President Ma and his group were very lively. On the contrary, Zhu Jifa, who was the host today, couldn't integrate into the atmosphere of this group of people. This feeling was very strange. Zhu Jifa clearly wanted to talk to President Ma, so he booked a private room in this expensive hailing pavilion. In the end, President Ma didn't stand on ceremony. He pulled out a bunch of his subordinates, and the table became a lively gathering of his trusted subordinates. Zhu Jifa didn't even have the chance to talk. Zhu Jifa couldn't integrate, and President Ma didn't have the mood to care about his emotions. He sent a young man to sit beside Zhu Jifa and pull him to drink. Zhu Jifa stood up to propose a toast, so the other party impatiently squeezed out a smile that was not a smile. It could be said that he had gone overboard. On the other hand, Zhu Jifa drank one cup after another. Less than 5 minutes into the meal, Chen Guang understood that there were some things that couldn't be said. After all, Brother Fa had been treated as a spendthrift today. This meal for more than 10 people, and they drank cup after cup of Maotai, at least 30 to 40,000 yuan was gone. The other party's large group chatted incessantly. Zhu Jifa, Hu Ling, and Chen Guang, who were originally the hosts, became completely dispensable on the scene. They just needed to pay, and their faces were full of awkwardness. Chen Guang had probably heard of similar situations. Nowadays, the country was calling for clean government and simplicity. Eating and drinking at public expense couldn't be messed around. However, this meal had to be eaten, and he couldn't pay for it himself. What should he do? When he was greedy, or when he wanted to host some big receptions, he would find some local business bosses who had something to ask of him. They said that they would introduce you to them, and help you pull some strings. In fact, they just wanted you to bring a bag of money. But if someone else were to do this, they would at least be meeting a big shot. If they let you fork out the money, it would really be a success. President Ma's table manners were exceptionally ugly. You're a leader who's treating your subordinate to a meal, yet you're tricking him into paying for it. Yet, you're not showing any sincerity or attitude when discussing matters. What the hell is this? He didn't even give them any face. Zhu Jifa poured glass after glass of wine into the young man's mouth. The young man seemed to be a wine jar. He was also suffering, but he still forced a smile. Chen Guang was furious. He had finally experienced the difficulties of this business today. Only Zhu Jifa could endure it. If it were him, he would definitely not be able to endure it. Although he was unhappy, he was not the one in charge today. Zhu Jifa could still hold it in, and Chen Guang naturally could not stand up for him, nor was he in a position to do so. Finding an opportunity, Chen Guang turned his head and asked Hu Ling next to him, "You didn't look right when I came in. What's wrong?" Hu Ling shook her head in a slightly flustered manner. "No, nothing. Chen Guang, you're good. Don't worry about this." Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. "Did that damn fatty take advantage of you?" Hu Ling's face stiffened. She looked at Chen Guang again and thought about the relationship between the two brothers. Finally, she leaned over to Chen Guang's ear and whispered, "It's okay. Your brother has a favor to ask now. I can bear with this little loss. It's nothing if I can get it done." "What's wrong?" Chen Guang suppressed his anger. Hu Ling whispered, "When I first came up, President Ma slapped my butt. Don't do anything rash. This scumbag." Chen Guang's face instantly darkened. Hu Ling was shocked by him and quickly pressed down on his leg. "Don't be rash. Don't cause trouble for your brother. I've already endured it. Don't ask about this. Just eat your food." After taking a few deep breaths, Chen Guang grinned at President Ma, who was looking at him curiously. He then turned his face to Hu Ling and said with a fake smile, "Fine. It's your business anyway. Anyway, I can't be a businessman. I'm not learning." He really couldn't do it. If doing business required him to suffer like this, he really couldn't do it. Even though Zhu Jifa was dealing with a small printing factory and only wanted to borrow tens of thousands of yuan, he was only facing the president of a county-level branch of a commercial bank. With 200 million yuan in his hands, he might not need to be afraid of someone like President Ma when he entered the business world. However, there would definitely be bigger people waiting for him to curry favor with them. "I can't do this business. Anyway, I can't stand this." Chen Guang fiercely picked up a piece of Dongpa pork knuckle and stuffed it into his mouth. This time, he didn't even want to wear his ears. After 3 rounds of drinking, Zhu Jifa finally couldn't hold it in anymore. At this moment, President Ma seemed to have drunk enough. He got up and said that he needed to go to the toilet. Zhu Jifa quickly followed him, thinking that this was an opportunity for him to talk. Seeing him like this, Chen Guang's heart was pounding. It was hard to be a human being, but it was even harder to be a businessman. He understood Zhu Jifa's character. Zhu Jifa was a hot-tempered person like him in the past, but now he had become like this. Perhaps he really needed money badly. It was not easy to find a relationship with President Ma. Even if the situation looked so bad now, he refused to give up this opportunity easily. After a while, the two of them returned. President Ma walked unsteadily in front while Zhu Jifa looked helpless behind the door. "President Ma, can we talk about this again?" President Ma, who was pushing the door open, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhu Jifa coldly. "Xiao Zhu, we can talk about this later. Let's talk about it another day. Everyone is having a good time today, so let's not talk about business." Zhu Jifa's face stiffened. He was already cursing in his heart. "I was only inviting you alone, but you brought more than 10 people and cost me tens of thousands. Now you are telling me that we are not going to talk about business? Why did I invite you here if we are not going to talk about business?" But he forced a smile on his face. "That's right. Eat well and drink well. Let's talk about it another day." When the two of them entered, everyone on the table stopped their cups and looked at them. Chen Guang had also heard their conversation and wanted to slam the table as well. However, when he saw that Zhu Jifa had endured it, he felt that even if he had to endure it, he would continue to endure it. The two of them finally sat down. President Ma, who said he didn't want to talk about business, finally spoke again. He didn't try to hide anything. He said directly, "Xiao Zhu, I actually understand your situation very well. But the printing factory is not a new industry. It is not wrong to say that it is a sunset industry. Now, the country does not have any plans to support it. In the first half of this year, our branch's business is also doing well. The loan quota is almost used up. This matter of yours is difficult to handle. She didn't expect him to say it out loud in front of so many people. His meaning was obvious. I want to eat and drink for free, what can you do about it? Chapter 335. Zhu Jifa panicked and stood up. President Ma, this. President Ma impatiently pressed his hand down. Xiao Zhu, don't be anxious. I'll think of something later. Everything will go according to the proper procedures. As long as your company meets the lending standards, it's not impossible to talk about it. Alright, didn't I just say that we shouldn't talk about business at the table? Let's eat first. What he meant was that this meal was not enough and he had to continue eating another day. Zhu Jifa was furious, but President Ma was his last hope. It was all his fault. He wanted to eat until he was fat, so he rushed out a lot of orders. Now, he could not get a loan, could not get a new line, and could not complete it on time. If he lost money, he might even go bankrupt. If he took a step back and got a set of outdated and cheap equipment, it would cost at least a few million. On the other hand, it would be obsolete sooner or later. It would be a waste of money, and the production task might not be completed on time. Even if this matter could be settled through the proper procedures, it would still be dragged on by this man with the surname Ma. After wasting a few months, the factory would still be finished. Now, he really could not do anything about this man with the surname Ma. There was no other way. After sitting down again, the young man next to Zhu Jifa continued to pull him to drink. This time, the young man was finally willing to reveal his identity. He moved closer to Zhu Jifa and whispered. It turned out that this guy was President Ma's nephew. He gestured for Zhu Jifa to go outside to talk with him. Zhu Jifa had been ignored for the whole meal. Seeing that he finally had a chance to talk, he hurriedly followed. Even if he was just a nephew sent by President Ma, it was convenient for him to talk about things that were not convenient for outsiders to hear. Chen Guang first looked at the fat President Ma, who was still happily bragging. He then looked at Zhu Jifa, who was excitedly following him out. Chen Guang frowned slightly. It was already such a lousy situation. That man with the surname Ma obviously did not want to do anything. Zhu Jifa was too anxious and blinded by lard. Maybe this guy asked Zhu Jifa to go out to take advantage of his anxiousness to ruthlessly cut him off first. Chen Guang said to Hu Ling that he was going to the toilet too and followed them out. He felt that he had learned Zhu Jifa's way of doing business. It was embarrassing for him to kneel down and beg others to do business. Anyway, he couldn't do it. Wasn't it just 10 million? I have 183 million in my UBS account that I have nowhere to spend. How could he watch Zhu Jifa, who wasn't even his biological brother, suffer like this? Even if touching this money would step on Liuli's tail, he couldn't ignore it. Although Liuli was rude and unreasonable, she still had to be reasonable. When Chen Guang followed Zhu Jifa outside, he wasn't in a rush to argue with Zhu Jifa. Instead, he hid in a corner and listened to what the two had to say. Although it would feel good to flip the table in front of everyone, there's no need to offend them. Chen Guang was someone who had no desires, but he wasn't representing himself at this moment. Since he was sitting here with Zhu Jifa, he was also representing his factory. Two people's whispers came from the other corner of the wall. As expected, that was what that guy was planning. The young man's tone indicated that the matter was difficult, but not impossible. Mr. Zhu, it's not that my uncle doesn't want to help you, but the current national policy is the same. It's not easy. Zhu Jifa nodded bitterly. I know it's not easy, so I asked Brother Deng to contact President Ma. I don't dare to say anything else, but although the printing factory is a sunset industry, I have a lot of orders. As long as I can get a loan, I promise I won't let the loan go bad. The young man moved his face closer. Mr. Zhu, I understand what you're saying, but my uncle has his difficulties too. Zhu Jifa grunted in response. He was extremely impatient, but he also understood why Bank Manager Ma kept his nephew by his side. If Bank Manager Ma has any difficulties, why don't you tell me? As long as I, Zhu Jifa, can help, I won't hesitate. The young man smiled and suddenly said mysteriously, my uncle is quite fond of jade artifacts. After saying that, he did not say anything else. Zhu Jifa was in a dilemma. Difficulties my *SS. I thought you're good at it, but you're still the same. It was not popular to give money directly. After all, money, no matter if it was transferred to an account or changed into cash and hidden somewhere, would eventually be exposed. Jade, calligraphy, and paintings were stylish and valuable, and could be exchanged for cash. Actually, Zhu Jifa would rather the other party ask for money. Jade was more troublesome. No matter how much money he asked for, it would not be more than 100,000. But when it came to jade, how could he take out anything less than 100,000? The other party had already said that he liked jade, so his family must have some treasures. If the quality of the gift was too low, not only would it not please the other party, but it would also offend the other party. The value of the gift could only be figured out by the person asking for help. To be on the safe side, the value had to be estimated high, and the person would rather give more than less. But with Zhu Jifa's net worth, he could still afford tens of thousands. If it exceeded 100,000, it would be a serious problem. Even a factory worth 200,000 would not be able to operate smoothly. Obviously, it was not the first time the young man had done this on behalf of President Ma. He turned around and walked into the private room. Turning the corner, the young man saw Chen Guang, who had the same ugly expression. The young man could guess Chen Guang's mood at the moment. He snorted arrogantly and ignored Chen Guang. Zhu Jifa frowned and turned around. He saw Chen Guang's livid face and squeezed out a smile. He patted him on the shoulder and said softly, I didn't expect it to be so difficult. It's embarrassing. Don't be impulsive and ruin things. If you're really angry, you can go back first. Don't worry, this little setback won't defeat me. Snorting through his nose, Chen Guang continued, who the hell are these people? Don't tell me you're really going to give that Ma guy hundreds of thousands of jade? Can't you tell? They don't have the attitude to help at all, okay? Zhu Jifa shook his head. They don't want to help because I didn't do my job well. Don't worry, it can be done. F***CK. Was there a need to be so humble to please this kind of thing that ate people without spitting out the bones? Aren't you just short of money? How big of a deal is it? I have 10 million. Chen Guang finally said. But Zhu Jifa did not believe him at all. Don't tease me. Okay, if you're angry, don't go in to eat. Walk around outside first. Today's meal is like this. It's all because of this mess. I really have money. Seeing that he did not believe him, Chen Guang said anxiously. Zhu Jifa almost laughed. Okay, I know you're trying to comfort me because you pity me. But this is nothing. How can it be worse than me being bullied by Lu Xiaohong? There are hundreds of people in the factory who depend on me to make a living. This money is really important. If I mess it up, it's all over. If your family collapses, I can't collapse. It's tough, but I can take it. If everything collapses, who can take it if the old man gets sick in the future? You don't know how upset I was when I found out your dad wanted to sell the house. Don't worry, watch me. Take care of him. With that, Zhu Jifa turned and walked into the private room. Chen Guang was so angry that his head was about to explode. Just as he was about to take out his UBS black card to teach this ignorant grandson a lesson, he had already closed the private room door. His meaning was obvious. I'll take the brunt of this, and you can stay in your ivory tower and be a university student. Chapter 336. Chen Guang was depressed for a while, thinking to himself, anyway, this meal is destined to be free. If he wants to embarrass himself, then let him embarrass himself first. When this group of grandsons surnamed Ma eat and drink enough and leave, then I will slap his face with the UBS black card. Let's see if this guy still thinks of me as a kid who hasn't graduated. Shameful, a racing god, a rich man of 200 million, was actually looked down upon by a good brother who grew up wearing the same underwear. You wait for me. Chen Guang really wanted to know when he really slapped 10 million in Zhu Jifa's face, what kind of expression this silly guy who always regarded him as a big brother would have. I'll let you be so poor. Just as he was picturing that scene in his mind, his cell phone rang, and it turned out to be a call from Zhong Bai. Picking up the phone, Chen Guang was in a slightly irritable mood, and asked hurriedly, "What's the matter?" On the other side of the phone, Zhong Bai still didn't know that Chen Guang had become a powder keg at this time, and only said cheerfully, "Sister Lu Fei just came back from abroad, and asked me to gather everyone together. I think Brother Guang, you should have finished your exam, right? Why don't you come over when you have time? Sister Lu Fei said that you want to learn business, so let's talk together." If it was another time, Chen Guang would really be interested in learning business with this group of people. After all, he had a deep understanding of Lu Fei's ability after chatting in Hong Kong last time. A person who could lose 500 million in a year was definitely very experienced. But today was really not the time. He was annoyed with Zhu Jifa's business methods, so how could he have the mood to learn? He was still waiting for Zhu Jifa to finish his work and slap 10 million in his face. Not today, you guys are busy, I have something to do in the city. Chen Guang refused. Zhong Bai was about to speak, but Lu Fei grabbed his cell phone. Enough, Zhong Bai, this silly guy, can't even call a person. Chen Guang, where are you these days? Let's come to find you. Hospital? For some reason, Chen Guang felt his hands itch when he heard Lu Fei's voice. He would never admit that he harbored evil intentions, but during those days in Xiangjiang, he had been addicted to touching Lu Fei's body. Now that he suddenly heard this girl's voice after more than 10 days, why did his hands vaguely have an illusion, as if he had grabbed something again? On the other side, Zhong Bai and the others were already making a ruckus, vaguely shouting something. Eat him. Sister Lu Fei, go. Rise. All of you shut up. There's nothing going on between me and Chen Guang. Don't spout nonsense. Luffy flew into a rage, and the other side fell silent. Chen Guang smiled when he heard this. Lu Fei was also a tough woman. It seemed that Zhong Bai's request for him to go to their gathering to talk about business was a lie. Lu Fei really wanted to see him. She must have been the one who suggested it. It was just that she was shy at first, so she asked Zhong Bai to call her. He shook his head. There was no other way. As the invincible underground racing god, in the eyes of those who liked racing, he was so handsome that people could not extricate themselves. Lu Fei was also a weirdo. She was so rich, and seemed to be quite good at doing business. She was such a mature and decent person, but why did she like racing? But this was also good, or else how could he take advantage of her? If he did not get to know this group of people, he would still be running the internet bitterly. He also did not have the money to treat his mother's illness. How could he be like now, with 200 million in his hands ready to act cool at any time? He really underestimated himself. It was hard to say about other things, but what he had done in Xiangjiang in the past 5 days was still a legend in the entire world's underground racing world. If he was willing to reveal his true identity as the racing god, not to mention Lu Fei, there would be at least a dozen foreign girls of similar status waiting to throw themselves into his arms. However, they might not have Lu Fei's natural and beautiful temperament. Chen Guang, say something. Now that you don't race, you don't even want to see us? This is so sad. Lu Fei urged again. I don't mean that, really. I'm in Hailing Pavilion now. I have something to do and can't leave. How about you go about your business first? When I'm done, I'll come to see you later. Oh, what a coincidence. We're nearby. Wait for us for a few minutes. What's wrong? You got rich and went to Hailing Pavilion to be corrupt? That restaurant is boring. I'll take you to eat better private dishes another day. Wait for us. After asking for the name of Chen Guang's private room, Lu Fei hung up the phone with a snap. She was burning with anxiety. Chen Guang did not have time to explain that he followed others to be a foil. He thought to himself, forget it, come if you want. At that time, I'll let this group of people meet Zhu Jifa and let them throw out the stack of business cards that scared Dong Tao. Heh, with Zhu Jifa's character, who wants to kneel on the spot. Chen Guang patted his head and thought of this. He could not help but start to giggle. Thinking about how Zhu Jifa was still bitterly sucking up to that guy with the surname Ma, Chen Guang wanted to know how much he would regret it later. The real sugar daddy is right in front of you. It's me, the big brother that you treat as a little kid. If Chen Guang completely relied on his own temper, whoever dared to treat him like a fool like President Ma, he would definitely be slapped in the face. Who the hell dilly-dallying with you? Now that he knew that reinforcements would arrive soon, the unhappiness in Chen Guang's heart quickly dissipated. After thinking about it, he decided to return to the private room and sit down. He had not eaten his fill yet. Therefore, he pushed the door open and went in. This time, he was determined to ignore everything and planned to eat in silence. In the end, Chen Guang found that his seat was occupied by someone else. It was none other than the damn fatty, President Ma. Zhu Jifa was already 70 to 80% drunk by President Ma's nephew. He was a little delirious. President Ma's nephew was obviously experienced. He was a fighter in the drinking arena. When Chen Guang turned his head to look, he suddenly felt blood rushing to his head. F***CKU. Isn't it enough for you to take advantage of me? Swindling, taking benefits without doing anything, isn't it enough to be an ingrate? You even want to touch my brother's woman. You're rebelling. At this moment, President Ma's face was red. He seemed to be half drunk as well. He was sitting in Chen Guang's original seat with one hand holding Hu Ling's shoulder. Hu Ling looked embarrassed. She struggled with all her might, but how could her strength compare to the big fatty, President Ma? She did not dare to really flip the table for President Ma. The one with the surname Ma held Hu Ling's shoulder with one hand and slammed the table with the other. Xiao Zhu is really lucky. This factory isn't doing well, but it's really good at picking people. Xiao Hu looks cute and pretty. TSK. Look at how cute and helpless she is. Good, very good. Xiao Zhu, let me put it this way. Xiao Hu and I hit it off the moment we met. I might not be able to negotiate with you, but I can negotiate with Xiao Hu. Do you understand? Zhu Jifa also realized that the situation was not right, but he was even drunker than President Ma. He could not even speak fluently. He held his head and shook his head. No, not good, President Ma smiled. There's nothing bad about it. It's quite good. Isn't that why you brought Xiao Hu here? I understand. Let's not beat around the bush in front of an honest person. As long as I discuss this with Xiao Hu, I will definitely settle it for you. How about it? Zhu Jifa was still shaking his head. No way. On the other side, President Ma's nephew suddenly stuffed a glass of wine into Zhu Jifa's hand and clinked glasses with him. Bottoms up. Zhu Jifa was drunk. He picked up the glass and drank. Before he even drank half a glass of wine, he slumped on the table and was completely drunk. Chapter 337. On the other side, when President Ma saw that Zhu Jifa had finally collapsed, he turned his head and laughed at Hu Ling. His breath reeked of alcohol, and he became even more unscrupulous. This grandson smiled and moved his face closer to Hu Ling. He held a cup in his hand and shoved it into Hu Ling's mouth. He said, "Little Hu, you're little Zhu's right-hand man. Come, little Hu, drink this cup. When you're done drinking, we'll have a good chat." After we chat, things will be easier. Following President Ma's actions, everyone at the table roared with laughter. Perhaps everyone was drunk, or perhaps President Ma often brought his confidants to do this kind of thing. Following President Ma's actions, everyone at the table roared with laughter. Perhaps everyone was drunk, or perhaps President Ma often brought his confidants to do this kind of thing. For a moment, the large private room was filled with the smell of demons dancing in a frenzy. Hu Ling had never encountered this kind of situation before, so she stiffened her neck and dodged to the side. President Ma suddenly became annoyed and slammed the cup on the table. The expensive Mao Tai splashed out like water, splashing all over Hu Ling's body. I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. I'll say it here. If you accompany me to drink and chat to your heart's content today, we can talk about the loan, but if you insist on putting on airs like this, then don't blame me. I, Ma Lin, at least have some face in the 5 capital financial circle. Your President Zhu can forget about getting a single cent from our system in the future. Hu Ling's face turned pale in fear. She looked at Zhu Jifa for help, but he was already lying on the table and snoring loudly. This sounds like a long time, but from the time Chen Guang opened the door to the time he walked behind President Ma, it was only a dozen seconds. The raging anger rushed from his heels to the top of his head. He could see through the man with the surname Ma at a glance. This B** didn't want to do anything for Zhu Jifa at all. Not only did he not want to do anything, but he also deliberately got Zhu Jifa drunk and went crazy with the help of the alcohol. He wanted to eat Hu Ling clean. If he wasn't here today, perhaps old Zhu would really have a big fall this time. Don't look at how cowardly he was right now. If Hu Ling really suffered a loss, he really was the kind of person who dared to go in with a white knife and come out with a red one. Fine, since I'm here today, I'll help him stab the knife in first. This group of crazed fellows did not notice that Chen Guang had gradually walked behind Ma Lin. Hu Ling was so scared by Ma Lin that she almost cried. Her mind was blank, and she didn't know what to do. If she had waited until tomorrow to talk to Brother Deng and understand President Ma's character, she would not even appear at this table. Even if Ma Lin really wanted to give a woman to Ma Lin, it would not be her. Ma Lin could just spend money to hire a PR person. She really liked Zhu Jifa. She didn't want to see Zhu Jifa miss the opportunity and cause the factory to collapse. She had a weak personality and was worried that her resistance would completely offend Ma Lin. Right now, she was in a dilemma. Seeing that he had successfully subdued her, Ma Lin grinned. That's right. Io, little Hu, your body is really. As he spoke, he really reached out his hand towards Hu Ling's chest. Hu Ling desperately tried to push his hand away, but the president once again put on a straight face. Xiao Hu, you better think it through. Hu Ling did not dare to move. Ma Lin's demonic claws were getting closer and closer. The other people sitting at the table were also sizing up the two of them with mocking gazes. Clearly, this wasn't the first time Ma Lin had done this in front of this group of people. However, he did not succeed in the end because Chen Guang grabbed his hair from behind and pulled it back. F***CKU, you piece of sh**T. I've seen a lot of sh**TTY people, but I've never seen someone as F***King sh**TTY as you. Chen Guang angrily attacked. He did not think about controlling his strength at all. He used all his strength on Ma Lin's hair and instantly flipped this fat man who weighed at least 180 kilograms to the ground. A bunch of his hair was pulled out. Ma Lin screamed and fell on his back. The back of his head hit the hard floor tiles and he held his head and howled. Chen Guang held Hu Ling's shoulder, who was completely shocked by the sudden turn of events. He did not want her to fall down because of Ma Lin. Hu Ling, it's not appropriate for me to call you sister-in-law, but I can't stand it anymore. Brother Fa is drunk, so I'm the only one who can handle this. As Chen Guang spoke, he kicked Ma Lin's abdomen, who was slowly crawling up, causing the fatty to cry out before he hugged his abdomen and squatted down. Everything happened too fast. The people that Ma Senlin brought with him did not understand what was going on. Ma Senlin's nephew moved the fastest. He stood up from his chair and rushed towards Qinguang with a wine bottle in his hand. He cursed, "Motherf asterisk cur, do you want to die? Why are you guys standing there like idiots? Do it. Kill this F asterisk cur." Qinguang raised his hand and grabbed the wine bottle that Ma Senlin's nephew knocked over. With a little force, he snatched it back into his own hand. With a shake of his hand, the wine bottle hit the head of the young man who was jumping up the most. For a moment, glass shards flew everywhere. Ma Senlin's nephew held his head and screamed as he retreated. Blood began to flow from the gaps of his fingers. Either don't make a move, or you have to be ruthless. This was Qinguang's life principle. There were more than 10 people on the other side. If he was alone, he would not be afraid of them at all. But now there was a drunk Zhu Jifa and a powerless Hu Ling. Therefore, from the beginning, he had to subdue this group of grandchildren to prevent the other two from being implicated. His crazy action of killing the chicken to warn the monkey really scared the other 10 people silly. It was not that he had never seen people fight, but there were not many people who fought in such a ruthless way. There were even fewer people who broke the other person's head without any hesitation. Qinguang snorted. Holding the half bottle, he walked next to Ma Senlin, who was trembling as he stood up. Without any nonsense, he grabbed Ma Senlin's hair and gestured the half bottle in front of Ma Senlin's face. It was funny. A lot of the hair on this guy's head fell off after he grabbed it just now. Now it was almost bald, which was very funny. This time, the other people who were a little tempted to make a move were all dumbfounded. If Qinguang really stabbed the bottle into Ma Senlin's neck, the consequences would be unimaginable. "You, don't mess around." Ma Senlin endured the pain in his stomach and stepped back little by little until his back was completely pressed against the wall. He was sweating profusely. "If you have something to say, let's talk it out. I was just joking with Xiao Hu. I didn't really mean that. Little brother, please calm down." Ma Senlin was afraid. He was less than 50 years old, and he still had a lot of years to enjoy. He couldn't die here today. Of course, although he was begging for mercy, in his heart, he already hated Zhu Jifa and Brother Deng, who introduced him to him. "Where did you find such a bastard? You want to kill someone just because of a disagreement. You don't look like you are here to talk at all. When I go back, don't even think about getting a penny from the Wujing City bank system. Not only that, I will send this bastard to prison and let him stay in prison for a long time." Chapter 338. Qinguang grinned. How could he not understand what Ma Senlin was thinking? He directly exposed him. "President Ma, you say that you're convinced, but your eyes seem to have a lot of ideas." Qinguang threw the bottle away and let it shatter on the floor. His left hand held onto Ma Senlin's collar with one hand, and the strength of one hand was enough to lift Ma Senlin up completely. After mastering the Qilin arm, his strength, which was already greater than an ordinary person's, had increased by another 50%. The specific manifestation of this was that he was able to lift up such a large fatty with one hand with this seemingly weak arm. The private room was silent for a moment. Everyone was so scared that they sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a troublesome matter. At this moment, Hu Ling pounced on Qinguang from behind and pulled him. "Qinguang, put him down. Quickly put him down." Qinguang struggled for a moment and pushed Hu Ling away with his right hand. "Sister Hu Ling, don't worry. I know what you're nervous about. Isn't it just a loan of 10 million? It's not a big deal. It's such a small amount of money. Is there a need to humble yourself and beg others? I've been holding it in because I really wanted to learn something with my ears. Now it seems that it's more practical to talk with my fists." Hu Ling was so anxious that she pulled Zhu Jifa again. She wanted to wake him up so that Zhu Jifa could stop Qinguang. Seeing Hu Ling in tears, Qinguang rolled his eyes. She was just afraid that the loan would be completely ruined. What's there to be afraid of? Ma Senlin spoke again. He felt that he couldn't breathe properly after being lifted up in the air and strangled by the collar. Ma Senlin said in a hoarse voice, Bro, put me down. This matter can be discussed, it can be discussed. Just follow the proper procedures. It can be done. Chen Guang loosened his grip. This fatty finally fell and sat on the floor. Alright, since we've already gotten to this point, you don't have to pretend to be kind to me anymore. I know what you're thinking in your heart, it's nothing more than to kill me and brother Fa when we get back. It's nothing more than to sue me for intentionally injuring someone and putting me in jail. I know what you're doing. I've seen people like you a few times. Chen Guang was quite straightforward and directly exposed Ma Senlin's thoughts. Ma Senlin shook his head. No, I definitely don't have such thoughts. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Shrugging his shoulders, Chen Guang took out his UBS black card and shook it in his hand. I've already said that 10 million yen isn't a problem. Brother Fa thought that I was joking, and Hu Ling, you didn't believe me either. But it's really not a big deal. Hu Ling was still a little confused, but Ma Senlin was an insider. He recognized the uniqueness of the card in Chen Guang's hand at a glance. Not to mention the number of people who could make this card, they could indeed take out 10 million. Seeing Hu Ling's blank face, Chen Guang felt a slight pain in his balls. Big sister, why don't you know this? You made me fail to show off. He simply pulled Ma Senlin over. President Ma, help me explain this card to Sister Hu Ling. Ma Senlin was almost disgusted by Chen Guang's appearance as a nouveau riche. However, this nouveau riche was too good at fighting. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Ma Senlin could only bite the bullet and explain to Hu Ling. As he explained, he stared at his nephew who was squatting in the corner. Thank God, the blood on the kid's forehead had stopped. When Chen Guang knocked the kid's head, although he was angry, his action was too fast and too ruthless. The bottle only broke on the kid's forehead and then retracted. It didn't really cut the kid's forehead. Otherwise, someone would really die today. Hu Ling didn't understand, but after listening to Ma Senlin's shaky explanation, she understood. Zhu Jifa's little brother, Chen Guang, was really awesome now. Brother, since there's no need for a loan, are we just going to let this matter go? Then can we leave first? My nephew's injuries are quite serious. We have to go to the hospital as soon as possible. Ma Senlin said as he moved towards the door of the private room. Chen Guang sneered. Amazing, really amazing. I've always heard that some people in this world can hide their thoughts in their hearts, and no one can see through them. President Ma, you've really broadened my horizons. I admire you very much. Ma Senlin awkwardly forced a smile. I don't really understand what you mean, brother. I really admire your acting skills of adapting to the circumstances. But do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Kid, why are you being so arrogant? In this world, it's not about having a strong fist. I've seen a sea of rich people. Now that the situation is stronger than you, you'll regret it later if I let you be cocky, right? As Chen Guang spoke, he pressed forward again and looked at Ma Senlin aggressively. Ma Senlin's eyes flashed. No. Actually, Chen Guang didn't guess wrong. Although UBS black card users had some status, his card wasn't the scariest 10 billion gold card of UBS. His status in the country was basically the same level as an American Express black card. The lowest standard was China Merchants Bank. As long as a person's personal assets reached 20 million, they could grit their teeth and get it. Ma Senlin was the president of a county branch of Dongcheng Commercial Bank, and he was also the manager of a large industrial county. He usually greeted the big entrepreneurs in the county, and a UBS black card couldn't scare him off. Now that he was acting so cowardly, it was purely because Chen Guang's methods were too ruthless, to the point that he didn't dare to bear the consequences of angering Chen Guang on the spot. But after that, his revenge wouldn't be so easy. What Ma Sanlin was thinking was, how much you made me suffer today, how much face I've lost, I'll definitely pay you back 10 times, 100 times the next day. He didn't expect that the person in front of him was not only ruthless in his attacks, but also ruthless in his judgment of others. He couldn't hide his little schemes anymore. So, since I've already offended you to this extent, and the grudge has already been established, even if I let you go now, you'll still come looking for trouble later. With someone like you, it's impossible not to kill me. So, there's no need to worry about too much debt. Now, I have to leave you with a deeper memory. Anyway, isn't it a fight to the death? I quite like this. It was rare for Chen Guang to be so unforgiving. It was because Ma Senlin's idea of hitting on Hu Ling had touched his reverse scale. I treat Zhu Jifa as my own brother, and Hu Ling can be considered as half a sister-in-law. King came with such a big tone today. We didn't have a good meal, so we came here anxiously. We waited bitterly for you for an hour, and then King treated us like fools. King got my brother drunk, and you even have designs on my sister-in-law. If I don't leave some flowers for you, the old man's thoughts won't be smooth. You! What are you doing? Ma Sanlin heard that Chen Guang's tone was getting more and more sinister, and he gradually felt that something was wrong. At this time, one of his men finally saw that the situation was not good and wanted to rush out of the private room, but Chen Guang had already blocked in front of him like lightning. He backhanded the man's face, and the man spun around and fell down. This is the last warning. Before I let you go, whoever dares to move will really die. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the private room that had just eased up was instantly frozen again. Do you think I'm too much? Don't you want to forgive me? That's right, I'm this kind of person. You're very unlucky to have fallen into my hands. President Ma, I'll give you 2 choices. Kneel down and slap your own face with whichever hand you used to take advantage of Sister Hu Ling just now. Keep slapping until your face is swollen. Chen Guang grinned, and his words were indescribably cold. Everyone had a reverse scale that couldn't be touched. Ma Sanlin had stepped on his reverse scale today. Chapter 339. Don't go too far. Ma Sanlin was originally full of anger. He was waiting to escape from here before looking for an opportunity to retaliate. He didn't expect this brat to become more and more ruthless. He didn't soften his attitude because of his concession. Hearing this, Chen Guang grinned and slowly put his hand on his neck. The fat on this fat guy's neck was a little disgusting. Didn't you go too far just now? Since you didn't have the intention of lending from the beginning, you shouldn't have come to this meal, let alone touch my sister-in-law. Hu Ling looked at Chen Guang with a complicated expression. She really didn't expect Zhu Jifa's little brother to be so violent. If it was before, she could still persuade him, but now she knew that although this guy looked young, he was actually very rich. She also thought that such a big shot might have his own plans. She was just Zhu Jifa's secretary, so she really couldn't figure out the thoughts of these high-ranking people. On the other side, Chen Guang spoke again. Didn't I just say that there are 2 choices? The first is that you kneel down and slap yourself in the face. The second choice is that I break your dishonest hand. It seems that you chose the second one. As he spoke, Chen Guang let go of his neck and grabbed Ma Senlin's left arm with his right hand. His 5 fingers gradually increased the strength. Feeling the pain from his arm getting more and more intense, Ma Senlin's pupils shrank. He finally knew that this person wasn't joking. Madman. A complete madman. No, he saw through my plan. He knew that even if he let me go, I wouldn't give up easily. F***ck. What the hell should I do now? With a plop, this arrogant Mr. President finally knelt down. Loud slaps sounded in the private room one after another. Chen Guang stood by the side with his hands crossed and looked at this person coldly. Ma Sanlin thought it through. Compared to breaking his hand, it was easier to slap his face swollen. Since he couldn't escape today, he would grit his teeth and accept this loss. To be able to climb through the system to where he was now, he was indeed a person who knew how to judge the situation. Therefore, he hit very hard, trying to beat his face up as fast as possible. He just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Hu Ling didn't expect that the meal would end up like this. During this time, the Hailing Pavilion's waitress came in once, but she was frightened by the strange atmosphere in the private room. The fat man kneeling on the ground and constantly slapping himself made her think that this was a scene of a gangster boss punishing his underlings. She shrank her neck and ran away, ignoring the pleading eyes of Ma Sanlin's subordinates. Ma Sanlin was originally very fat, and it was not easy to beat him until he looked swollen, but he finally did it. It took him a whole 5 minutes, and the inside of his mouth was almost rotten. "Bro, are you done?" "I'm convinced, I'm really convinced." Half of Ma Sanlin's face was swollen, and his left eye could hardly open. He raised his head and looked at Qin Guang, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Qin Guang waved his hand impatiently. "That's about it. If you want to get out, then get out. If you want to call the police, then call the police. But I advise you not to find people from the underworld to cause trouble for me. That will really get you killed." Ma Sanlin responded vaguely, I don't dare, I absolutely don't dare." Then he decisively got up and planned to go outside. Before he had time to open the door, the private room's door was suddenly opened again. It was Lu Fei who walked in first. Lu Fei was very quick-witted. The moment she entered the door, she felt that the atmosphere was not right. She looked at Ma Sanlin, whose face was swollen like a bun, and another group of bank staff who were shrinking their necks and planning to run away. Then she looked at Qin Guang, who had not had time to retract his pretentious expression. She instantly understood. "You didn't get what you wanted, so you beat him up?" Lu Fei asked straightforwardly, right in front of Ma Sanlin. Qin Guang shrugged. He had beaten Zhu Jifa up, and his anger had also dissipated. He just needed to wait for Zhu Jifa to sober up, and then he would slap the UBS black card on his face to let this guy know how stupid he was. He was in a good mood, something like that. He deserved to be beaten up, so I beat him up. When saying this, Qin Guang suddenly thought of the scene when Zhong Bai and the others smashed Dong Tao's car. They were probably as overbearing as he was now. They smashed your car, threw you a business card, and asked you to pay for it, but you didn't dare. However, Qin Guang did not have the slightest intention to pay for Ma Sanlin. Ma Sanlin also looked at Lu Fei blankly, with a blank face. He knew the Missy of the Lu family. He had seen her from afar, but he didn't even have the qualifications to go up and talk to her. She was definitely not someone that he, as the president of a county branch of a commercial bank, could afford to offend. In a normal sense, running a business required people in the banking system, but when the scale and power of the Lu family reached the level of tyrannical power, the relationship between them was not in the normal sense. Not to mention other things, just based on the influence of the Lu family in Sichuan province, one word from them, and Ma Sanlin's career prospects would basically be bleak, and he might not be able to keep his backing. Behind him, Zhong Bai and Wang Qing had already rolled up their sleeves and rushed inside. Zhong Bai was very excited. "What's wrong? Brother Guang fought with someone? Great. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" Seeing Zhong Bai again, Ma Sanlin's heart thumped again. The young master of Huangxiang Corporation was also here. This situation didn't seem right. He called this young man Brother Guang. Called him brother? Why did he look like he was a lackey? Wang Qing was worthy of being Wang Guoxiong's son. He had already squeezed to the front silently with his hands behind his back, probably hiding something. Wang Qing had already seen Qin Guang's godlike feat in the Xiangjiang car gambling competition. He saw with his own eyes that he used his GTR to step on the heads of all the car kings in the world, becoming a legend of a generation, and fulfilling his highest dream of racing. Even though he no longer raced, every time he saw the live broadcast videos brought back by Lu Fei, Wang Qing still felt his scalp tingling and his blood boiling. Today, Chen Guang had already become a god in his heart. Those who dare to go against my god are my enemies. But what made Ma Xinlin feel the most despair was not Wang Qing, because he did not know Wang Qing, the son of a rather low-key underground boss in the 5 capitals. What really made his legs go soft was another young man standing behind Wang Qing with an awkward expression. Yes, it was this 26-year-old young man who had a lot of connections. Last month, he suddenly landed on his head and became his immediate boss. At this age, he did not dare to even fart when he sat on his head. But now, he saw him here. He was so inconspicuous in the crowd. Who exactly was this brother Guang? King no, so many big shots, and you yourself are also someone who can slap 10 million yuan. And you still want me to borrow a chicken feather. You guys are playing with me. Ma Xinlin felt like he was about to collapse. Ma Xinlin, what the hell is going on? This guy also knew that something was wrong, so he quickly squeezed from the back to the front. Duan, you know him? Lu Fei turned her head and asked. Duan nodded awkwardly. My subordinate, President Ma Xinlin of the county branch. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.